Rude Awakening Tour podcast.
Seats, spark seats. I'd like to welcome Marj Matchee to the Rude Awakening Tour podcast.
Thank you.
Marj, very pleased, very happy to have you here today.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
So, where are you from, Marj?
I live in Meadow Lake, Saskatchewan. I was born there, but I was raised in Haida, so I've had the best of both worlds.
That's in BC.
It's a beautiful part of BC.
Whereabouts?
Haida,
Like
the very coastal island. Just so here's Vancouver, here's Haida right above.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then you're in Meadow Lake.
And came back to Meadow Lake, and
nice.
And then we're traveled around with the army, I guess, for a little bit, and back. When all the stuff happened, I went back to Meadow Lake.
Yeah.
So,
so this podcast, we're talking about Mefloquine, and we're talking about the effects and everything that went on. So, a bit of a biography, if you would, your timeline, if you would.
Sure. My Mefloquine story started probably, well, I have to say, I would say, I don't know exactly the month, but it would have been October. I say likely October of 92, because my husband at the time, Master Corporal Clayton Matchee, was one of the first deployed with nearly 1,000 troops to Somalia. So I don't believe any wives knew. I didn't know that they were given the drug. And I'm not positive how many times he was given a loading dose, which they called, enough to get into your bloodstream to go. They were ready to deploy, and then they weren't. They were ready to deploy, and then they weren't. Yeah. And this happened a few times. Yeah. So I liken to think he might have had a couple loading doses. But when this happened, I could not figure out what happened to him. One day he was Clayton. The next day was somebody I just didn't know, and he never came back. So that became my nightmare.
So right away, you seen a change, and that change remained. He never came back.
Not the normal Clayton I knew.
The person.
So I blame. Yeah, he was changed completely. And in the beginning, I just kept blaming it on, well, he's going to a war-torn country. He's nervous. He's just not letting it on. So he's scared. I kept thinking, holy man, if I was going someplace like that, I'd probably be a little, off the wall myself. But then he didn't come home. Yeah. And this was maybe a couple weeks before they're supposed to go now. And he didn't come home. And he didn't come home and just fell off the face of the earth. And we had a 2-year-old at home, 6-year-old at the time at home. And he was gone. And that was his little pride and joy. And she couldn't figure out where her dad is either. I phoned around and people said they seen him. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Anyway, I finally phoned the barracks because I didn't know what else to do. And he was there. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, it's just easier this way. And I'm like, what is the fact that you're leaving? Is this separation anxiety? What's going on? I finally gave him an ultimatum, right? You either get home now or blah, blah. He came home. And that was that time that he finally told me what was going on.
And this is all before going over?
Before he was deployed.
Really?
Yeah. So this would have been probably 2 weeks that we actually sat down before he left for Somalia. And he told me, and he said, it's this effing drug. And I said, what drug? Well, they give us this drug because it's supposed to protect us from malaria, but it's not doing too good for me or a lot of guys. But I said, well, then get off it. Like, drugs are crazy if it's not, and he's like, well, no, it's orders from headquarters. So that's the way it is. And I was like, holy man, it kind of bothered me. But then he was gone. He was deployed. He was gone. Right. And that was just before Christmas in 92.
Yeah.
And then the letters came. I didn't even know who was writing these letters. They didn't make sense. Sometimes they did, not as a rule. Like, I just thought, well, I kept blaming it on that. And then I knew in my heart that just something wasn't right.
Do you still have any of those letters?
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're super personal, and I have not shared them, but there's a lot of things I could share about how the drug was bothering them and things that were going on at the time. So, yeah, I do have those still.
Yeah. That'd be nice to... Or, just to be able to examine and to realize that all this was an issue before anything even happened. right?
Yeah.
That he was having issues before he went to Somalia.
And once he got there,
That when he took the drug, he was having problems, right? It wasn't
no.
because everything was painted that it was that person's personality. It was
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
And for myself to say, I also didn't think that was Clayton, right?
No.
I knew Clayton. We both chewed Copenhagen, right? We all we always knew who we could ask for to get a dip from.
Yeah.
And and I never ever had one problem with him. I've never, right? He was always a person I could go ask for Copenhagen, go, and he wasn't the person that was that came out later, right?
He's not that person that I seen in the Somalia issue or when that happening's coming. I just, so 2 weeks before he's leaving now, I think it was a week before, I went for a walk with our daughter and he was down the way visiting someone. And I said, well, I'm going to go to town with our girl. And he followed me. And Clayton never, ever once worried about where I went or what I did. He was always bragging how, he never had to worry about me, right? Anyway, he followed me and he was getting angrier and angrier, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, we're just going to town, And that was the first time he grabbed me by the throat and slammed me into a closet in front of our girl. And this just never happened, ever. And he stopped himself and got a hold of himself and tried to apologize up and down and disappeared again. See why I said it was just easier? And I still couldn't figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand what Mefloquine did. Now we do.
Yeah.
So that was the first time he choked me.
To say that soon that he's already realizing it's easier for me to be away because I can't deal with these issues while I'm around you.
Exactly.
That's very
telling, isn't it?
Telling and troubling, right?
It's troubling. So then 2 days before that, he was on those drugs so bad. So I made him come home. You got to see your girl before you go overseas, right? You got to come home. So he did. And he fell asleep in our bed. I crawled into bed later. And during the night, I woke up and I was absolutely drenched, soaked. I thought, did someone pee the bed? Like, it was that wet. And I looked over at my husband and he's staring at the foot of the bed so intently, like white. I could see he's native, for heaven's sakes, but he was clammy white and I could see that, right? And I said, Clayton, what's wrong? He just just pray, Marj. So I did. I started praying and he said, it's working. Just keep praying. Pray. That was his first or one of the wide awake nightmares he experienced. Then what he told me was, when he finally could talk, is that he seen a monster come to the end of the bed and it was actually coming down to take him. Long teeth, and it was just so terrifying for him. But he was wide awake.
Yeah.
I watched him wide awake, have this vision. That was my first, when people started to tell me about wide awake nightmares, that clicked right away. I saw him do it. So then he left. He wasn't healthy to go, I could tell, and he was really rangy and off the way, but he left and off he goes again. And it wasn't even 2 weeks later that shit hit the fan, right? March 16th is etched in everybody's memories, right? I was at
March
college.
15th?
Yeah, I'm 16th. Sorry.
16th.
So the time frame would have been a little different for me in Petawawa.
Yeah, it's always hard to figure those ones out, right? When it's an overseas thing, right? Yeah.
I was late at the college that I was going to at the time because I was going to become a social worker, and I was late at the college that evening, and the secretary came downstairs and she said, Marj, there's some gentleman here to see you. And I jokingly pushed her and said, it's not the Padre, is it? Military-wise, I don't like to see that. And she just looked at me funny, and I never thought anything of it. But as I went up the 2 flights of stairs, he unbuttoned his collar, right? When he said the words he said, that was not what I expected to hear. I expected he's been in a landmine or he was shot, something, or he's a prisoner. I expected that. I didn't expect to hear the words they said. Your husband has been found hanging in a cell. He's charged with the murder and torture of a Somali prisoner. We're not sure if he's going to live, but we need you to come with us now. That's all I remember for days after, really, is just this numb, blind state I was in, right?
I can't even imagine right now to 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 then to try to like understand what was just said to you,
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't either, you
Right?
know?
And to say, to see some of these things happening before he went, to know that he wasn't in the right frame of mind, to know that he was having difficulties, to know that he was struggling, to know that he was seeing things and trying to fight off the demons that were coming for him.
Yeah.
And then for you to hear that, I can't.
In my heart, I knew right away when they told me that that drug had to have something to do with it, that he was not well. And how could he do what they're saying? How could he? I mean, for the first few weeks that he was there, or in the couple months, I was sent. You guys were allowed to get a 10-pound box every month. I think it was that us wives could send stuff, and I think it could weigh 10 pounds. He was making me fill that with hard candy for Somali kids. He was sending me pictures of Somali kids holding his gun. He was just like he laughed that they were so tiny, and he's 6'4", and he was telling me stories how those little ones would just look way up and fall backwards because he was so tall, just he cared. And then to flip to become what happened, I couldn't think of any other thing in my mind. And so from then on, I knew that this drug had the potential to cause people to become what he became.
Look at Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Absolutely. That you couldn't put it better.
Or as Dr. Remington Nevin had said, it was a Jacob's Ladder drug.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
it compounded, and the more they took it, the worse it got. Prior to this even happening, he wrote, I'd seen stories, and he had told me, and you get a 5-minute phone call too, right? Once a month. Yep. He said, it's so bad when we take this drug now that our commanding officers have asked to keep us in a compound for the day we get the drug. So they had dubbed those days Manic Monday, Psycho Tuesday, Wacky Wednesday, Freaky Friday. Honestly, can't remember what they called Thursday. So Psycho Tuesday was their day to take that drug. Mm. That's the day all this happened as well.
And there was other compounding factors. They had a 2 Commando smoker, and all that stuff. And what they found out later, right, is to say, so I met a couple in Labrador who went on a cruise in the Caribbean, and they were going to take Mefloquine, and then they're like, "You're not supposed to drink on it." And they're like, "Well, why are we? We came on the cruise to go have fun and drink and everything, and now this drug says you shouldn't drink on it."
Clayton writes that in his letter. He says exactly that. He says, we're not supposed to drink alcohol with this drug, but the water's so effing warm, the only thing cold here is beer. And they do beer call.
Yeah.
He said that's the only thing cold here is the beer in his letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew they were drinking on top of it and drinking hard.
Yeah. But just to say that, 15 years later, they're saying do not drink on it. Meanwhile, in Somalia,
they were doing beer call.
They're doing beer call.
Absolutely.
Two beer per man per day. But with any with any unit in the Canadian military, we can get around that 2 beer per man, right?
Absolutely.
We can double hole punch the same hole. We can do, right?
Yeah.
And here we're on a drug that who's monitoring us then?
Exactly.
Who if everybody that was in Somalia was on the drug, then where's the control group?
And
where's the control group to say, holy, these guys are like out of control?
Well, after shit all hit the fan, we all heard how the commanding officers were drunk with the the war guys, the warriors, those guys that were the ones they went there to deal with, they were actually with them partying. There was a lot of crazy stuff going on. They weren't even competent to be leading those guys. No one was competent anymore.
I don't think so.
I believe that now with all my heart, that I don't think one person there who took that Mefloquine was in their right mind, especially in theater, in the heat, lack of water, drinking too much.
All the things
you're
they say
you're
not supposed to do on
Exactly.
Mefloquine.
Exactly.
Don't operate heavy equipment.
Exactly.
We're driving armored
But they gave
vehicles.
you guns with live ammo and armored vehicles.
So here's one for you. So if you say, so on the drug, they say, you shouldn't operate heavy equipment on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only were we operating heavy equipment, right? So heavy equipment, I would assume that, if at speed, at 20 kilometers, at 60 kilometers an hour, at 80, you could kill somebody.
Absolutely. A tank.
But it all depends on the speed you're going.
Mm.
But we were all carrying a rifle. My rifle was loaded around up the spout for 7 months.
Yeah.
It was never unloaded. It was up above my bed with a round up the spout ready to go at any moment.
And you'll hear everyone tell you that most soldiers did it.
That means that at any time that weapon is now deadly.
And you were impaired.
And I'm impaired.
You were literally impaired, all of you.
Yep. Driving the vehicle, it was only dangerous once you got up to speed or got a little faster. Don't operate heavy equipment then. But a weapon is deadly
at any time.
At any time.
Absolutely.
As long as there's a round up the spout, it's deadly. And we know there was 24 significant incidents that happened during Somalia. That's
when Dr. Brill Edwards from Health Canada basically quit. She was telling these people, these incidents are coming from Mefloquine, and no one was listening to her either. People were throwing up flags, but Department of National Defense and all its cronies were quick to bury him. And after Clayton, of course, then I got vocal, right? I heard this man's name. He was the journalist who broke the story. I'm not kidding you. I drove to his house and I walked up his steps and I pounded on his door and he opened it. And I told him, you have no idea what you've done to my life. And he said, Mrs. Matchee, please, can you just come in and sit down and let me tell you that you need to know some things? And that's when the cover-up started to make sense to me that it was coming. And one of the things he said was, when this thing happened to your husband, he said that the commanding officers, people in charge, said that there was a live firefight down the road and all the media took off. So it was just sent the media on a wild goose chase. I as well, he said. But he said he forgot a part of his camera and he came back. And it was there they roughed him up and took his camera and took everything as Clayton was being wheeled out, because they took pictures of him coming out on the stretcher. They took that away from him. So he broke the story without the pictures, right? And it was just like, this is the things you hear in movies. This isn't real. Like, are you really kidding? This is all going on like that? The government is. Then I started to get my life threatened for talking. Why would you want to threaten my life unless you really had something to hide? It quit now because I'm not the only voice. You can't shut all you guys up now.
Yep.
But I mean, why? And who was doing that?
Yep.
I know who. But I mean, it doesn't take much to figure that one out.
So who do you think?
Cronies of D&D for sure.
Yep.
So at that time now, it was hard. Clayton was in the hospital fighting for his life. I was scared to move. I didn't know who was threatening me. There was multiple different letters that came. There were people constantly trying to break into the D&D hospital, and they would NDMC, and they would protect me and hide me, and the hotels hid me, and I had a lot of scary incidents, but made it through that. And then it got so bad they started to threaten my daughter. So that's when I up and left Clayton, and they moved him into the Royal University Hospital, something like that. And I came home just to make sure our daughter was safe. Yeah. So I stopped doing interviews for a long time. I still didn't let it go. I still lobbied, in the background for a lot of years and tried to reach out to people. And then, it was difficult and made it through. When my daughter finally got old enough, I said, I need to do this thing. And she got mad at me. And she's like, come on now, things are quiet. We can live our lives, I don't need people to know who I am anymore. I just moved, and she was upset with me. But the next day she phoned me in the morning and she said, Mama Bear, because that's what she calls me. She said, I get that this thing is so much bigger than my dad. And I said, yeah, it is. Thousands and thousands. And she said, Mama Bear, I got your back. Advocate the shit out of this however you want. I got your back. And that's when I started to get vocal again. And then it seemed like I was just an uphill battle wearing a tinfoil hat for so many years, right? But just spouting conspiracies. And every time I'd even get close, then D&D would send Dr. Jonathan Keystone, who's now passed away. He would come on and make me look like a fool. He would say, this is just a wife, who's trying to make her husband look better and trying to get a pension. And that's not at all what it was, right? So.
I mean, they're the ones that caused it all. And then they were the ones pushing on the people that were suffering because of what the government made them do.
When I finally won Clayton's pension in court, which didn't come to me, I didn't have authority over him, but it went to his family and him. When I finally won that pension, I got multiple phone calls. What did you just say to me that triggered something I was going to tell you? You just said that and I went off my head.
To say that they're the ones that caused this,
Yes.
and yet then they're the ones pushing and causing you pain when it's their fault.
So I finally went through this hair-raising thing where I stayed out of the limelight, and John Cummins was a member of Parliament. John Cummins phoned me one day as I'm going out the door to school, because I was now in forestry school, and I'm leaving to go, and the phone rings, and then, my name's John Cummins. I'm the riding for a little. I said, I haven't got time for this. I got to go. And I was going to hang up the phone, and he's screaming my name, and he's like, Marj. I said, yes. And he said, I believe you. And I said, about what? And he said, well, please give me a minute to talk. I said, okay. And he said, Marj, I know what you're going through. I've been watching you. And he said, I've been doing my own research. And he said, I believe you. I believe that you're right about Mefloquine. I believe that it all had the effects that came, and everything that went wrong were a result of Mefloquine. And I pretty much can prove it. And that's when he said, what can I do for you? Well, I had battled for a pension for Clayton. This was going into the 7th year, using their advocates, because I had no money to do it. And he said, and I said, do you want to help me get me a lawyer? And he said, I have one. So his lawyer, and they tricked me because they knew I wouldn't have done it otherwise, said, you need to be in federal court. And I said, no, I can't go out and face the public. And he said, we'll go with you every step of the way. And to his word, he paid for my flight to go to that final hearing in the federal court in Halifax. He paid for my flight with his air miles, and he put me in first class, and he put me up in a nice hotel room for one day in Halifax. Yeah. And while I'm on the plane, it was just about an hour from landing, and he sat down beside me and said, I know you're going to be mad, but you have to understand that we need to do this. He said, I've called the media. And I was like, what? Because that was my fear back then. Yep. And he said, Marj, when they thought you were coming every other time, they pretty much tripled the security. They have no idea you're coming. But the media did. And it was awful. And so that was one of the hardest days. And then while I'm watching that judge, he's just like yawning and looking at his clock while my advocate lawyers are talking. And John Cummins and his lawyer, they're just spinning in their seats with me. And, and everywhere I went, the media was in my face. It was horrible. At any rate, long story short, the judge looked at their side comes up. My defense has been the prosecuting lawyers come up, or the ones that say whether I could have a pension. And he went to speak, and the judge just turned into this monster and attacked them and said, how dare you all? There's a clause in the Veterans Affairs that says, if in doubt, award the claimant. And and that pension got awarded that day. And then Dr. Jonathan Keystone came on again behind me, and while they're interviewing me, and it was to her credit that the lady who did the CBC came on behind me and said, it needs to be said here that this doctor also works for D&D and Hoffman and LaRoche, who created the drug. So he never came on behind me again after that, and I was finally starting to be able to be heard.
Or just even to step back for a sec.
Yeah.
So when you guys, where did you guys start from? Like Clayton was in the what battalion?
He was in Princess okay. When we first started, he was Princess Patricia's Light Infantry, and we were in Victoria.
Yeah. So you were with the 3rd Battalion.
3rd Battalion, yeah. And then we weren't even there a year. We were in beautiful Victoria. And come November, it was still sunshiny and the flowers were still sprouting. And we got posted to Petawawa, and there was 4 feet of snow, and it was just like being back in northern Saskatchewan. And he had to go right away. And here I was, a little 2-year-old, and that's military life. Hey, I didn't even know where the store was. I had not even a clue. But I met neighbors, and from there on, it was all good. So yeah.
And so, what year was that you guys actually went to the airborne?
So we've been 87. 87, we moved into Victoria, and by 88, we were in Petawawa.
Yeah, geez, you were already there for 2.5 years before I even got there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, lived on Cleve Avenue.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I was on Passchendaele, I think.
Oh yeah, you were on the other
side. No, Paardeberg.
Okay. You were on the other side. Yeah.
It's but there was so much going on and so many stories that were being buried at the same time.
Because I think people were ashamed. I was ashamed, and I didn't even do anything wrong, but I was made to feel like I was somehow the problem as well, right? And when it happened, you were all gag ordered, and I don't know if that applied to you at the time, but I do know, because there were many airborne soldiers who were Clayton's friends who wanted to talk to me. They were gag ordered not to talk to me.
Yep.
And so it took some to sneak in the back door kind of thing and come and have a chat with me so that I knew what was going on. And when this thing happened and the Padre showed up, it was hard because he was barely hanging on to his life, basically. And I got one 5-minute call at 10 in the morning for the next 5 days. And on the 4th day, so he got taken to Mogadishu hospital. So he was there for quite a while. And then he developed pneumonia in his lungs. He couldn't breathe. They said he's not going to make it. I did the thing Army wives don't do. I phoned the general. And so I just had nothing left to lose. And I phoned General Bino at the time. And General Bino said, Mrs. Matchee, this is exactly what we said. Mrs. Matchee, he said, I'm not trying to dismiss you in any way, but I just got apprised of this. I've just returned from Alert Bay. I've just been apprised of this situation. My dear, give me 1 hour and I will call you back. I sat by that phone because it was just horrible. 1 hour to his word, he said, he phoned me back and he said, I will have Clayton on a Starlifter to Germany, and then I'm assigning an officer to you. You get an officer, he's going to get you a passport. We're going to get you there. Because I told General Bino, what would you do if this was your wife? Like, would you just sit here or would you want to do something? And to his credit, he called me back and he said, don't worry about that. It was like, we went to get the passport and I didn't even get the picture taken. Just take her straight to Ottawa. They lifted him right to Ottawa from Mogadishu after that time. And it was bad.
They took him right from Mogadishu to Ottawa?
Yeah.
Instead of to Germany?
They went straight to Ottawa. So he got taken into NDMC hospital within that week. Otherwise, I don't think he would have made it.
Yeah.
Because in the first night, they woke me up. They had to insert drain tubes into his lungs. He had aspirated and it was just on and on. It was horrible. But every one of them nurses, and shout out to Tony if you ever hear this, because I would love to see that guy again. He was the most awesome nurse to him. And he always said, I bet this guy would have been fun to have a beer with. I said, yeah, he was. Yeah. And he took such good care of him. But he also told me, I can't believe this guy wanted to die. And I said, why? He says, because no one fights this hard to live when they want to die. and he
Yeah.
fought hard to live, but he had a trach. He couldn't breathe. It was really bad, really, really bad. And he plateaued after 2 years, and that's where he's at to this day.
Yeah.
So he's like a small child. He has no short-term memory. If I told you that coffee's hot, you'd remember, but he wouldn't a second later. He would burn. So he has to be watched constantly, right? And he spends his time now mostly in the Saskatchewan hospital.
So where is he
In the Saskatchewan hospital. He used to go and stay at the farm because it was good for him, but his mom's not really all that well now too, so she's not as capable of that. But I tell you, with his memory the way it is, and I've gone to visit him, he doesn't care. He just doesn't care. I hate to say it, but he'll be sitting there and then off he goes, and you're like, "Where are you going?" "To my room. I'm gone." He's gone.
Yeah.
But I know that if you ask him, have you seen Marj? He'll say, "Oh yeah, she was just here." He has no suffering in that way where he doesn't see us. He just doesn't remember. Just doesn't.
Yeah.
He, after this thing happened, it never got let go either. So every 2 years we had to go in front of the courts and prove that he had not tried to commit suicide to maim himself, but that he actually tried to commit suicide to kill himself, and to prove that he wasn't pretending to be this damaged. So it was quite interesting.
And how many years did that go on?
There were 3 of those. And the third year, the things he said just blew the judge away. It blew us all away. It just doesn't make sense. And it's almost silly for me to tell you what he said. But I mean, the judge just had to swallow and get a grip on himself. And we realized just how damaged he was, right?
Yeah.
So while he was in NDMC hospital, I watched him regress badly and then sometimes come forward. And it was at that time that Lieutenant General Matchee came in to charge him. And that was the first time I seen him. And Clayton was laying there and he said, "Hello, soldier." And Clayton was like, "Sir?" And he said, "How are you?" "I'm good." He would just quickly answer. He doesn't even wait. And he said, "How are you feeling?" And Clayton actually told him that they took a piece off my big toe and they sewed it right here, he told him. And I could see the look on Matthew's face like, holy crap, this guy's really foobarred, right, basically. But he charged him anyways. And the whole time Clayton's looking at me, smiling. He's got no clue what's going on, right? And they did it again twice. And then probably didn't feel that was sufficient. And the third time, I just wouldn't let them in. And it took the captain and another officer to convince me that it would be okay, right? For Clayton mentally, it just didn't really matter. So he didn't get it. If he'd have got it, he'd have been scared to death. Like, I'm going to prison, what happened? But he didn't get it. I could see it. He did not ever understand what happened. Not to this day.
Yep. And that was, who'd you say the general was?
That was Lieutenant Colonel Matchee, who was in Somalia.
So,
It
was the CO came.
He was the one who ordered it to be done.
To be charged.
When that Somali prisoner broke into your compound that day, it was Lieutenant Colonel Matchee, because, I will tell you this, in the last sane conversation I had with Clayton was one of them 5-minute calls, and it was the next day after the beating of that boy. And Clayton called me, and then this is exactly what he said, because this is the last sane conversation I ever had with him. And he said, "Babe, we got into some trouble here last night." And I was like, "What kind of trouble?" He said, "Well, we were ordered to rough up a prisoner," and we did. But I guess we roughed him up pretty bad, because a couple hours later, they come and got me and told me my prisoner died. I've always wondered what happened in that couple hours that he wasn't there. And then they cut him off. Poof, cut right off. I didn't get my 5 minutes. He was gone. And that was the last time I talked to him.
Yeah. Because he could have said something to you.
He was gonna. And he told me everything. That's just how he was.
Yeah.
I didn't judge him. He knew that. He could tell me anything, And if he'd have done that, he'd have told me that too. Because we were friends from the time we were young. And I know him better than anybody, After that, then the death threat started. And it was weird. It was just awful. I couldn't get my head wrapped around why they're angry at me, because I wouldn't shut up.
Yeah. But it's almost, why were they angry at you? They weren't angry at you. Or, maybe people, some of it might have been coming that way, but more of it was probably trying to silence you.
And it was, but they
Because
were really
it was
good
a
at
story and a
yeah.
narrative they didn't want to come out.
But who did the whole world blame? Clayton and Kyle Brown.
Yeah.
The whole world. And then when the disbandment of the Airborne came, then I was really hated.
Yeah.
So I stayed out of the limelight, right? Sorry. And I just quietly kept lobbying as best I could. And then after my daughter told me, give her, it was odd because I thought, you know what? I'm going to go to Remembrance Day. I wouldn't go to those either anymore because I just didn't feel I had a right to be there after all this happened. Know why? I didn't do anything.
You had every right to be there.
I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to that one and I remember seeing this big, tall soldier with medals and an airborne beret on. And he had a beautiful, tall wife with long hair. And I thought, oh, that's a nice looking couple. And I wonder who they are. And I pretty much know everybody in Meadow, right? And our lady that was doing the talking for the Remembrance Day, she just winding it up. And I remember her saying, we have snacks and coffee if everybody would like to come. And all of a sudden I hear this, excuse me, I have something to say, excuse me. And this big soldier's plowing his way down the middle of everybody through the cops that are sitting there in front of everybody in their fancy red dress, right? And he said, I have something to say. And I couldn't even believe what was coming out of his mouth because here was someone saying, I knew Clayton Matchee. And if it wouldn't have been for, that could have been me, he's saying. And I'm like, what? That could have been me, he's saying. And he went on. And I remember my older sister just shooting across the thing to me and saying, do you hear what he's saying? And I said, I think so, because I was it shocked me. I was kind of numb. And when he was done talking, I remember that all of a sudden behind me, all of Flying Dust stood up and clapped and cheered. And then I met Dave. That was Dave Bona and his wife, Teresa. And from then on, this advocacy became quite powerful because through him and I connecting, all the dots started to line up,
Yeah.
and through that, it's been a lot better. I've felt protected. And he has this way of, when those guys would come out and say, oh, Clayton was this, he was a shit soldier, he was this, you're just blah, blah. Instead of getting angry like I would, Dave would say, Margie, you stay off Facebook today. Margie, I've had this conversation with you before. If I go back on you and be like, Margie, stay off Facebook. He spent the time educating people instead of judging them and getting angry at them. Mm. But they weren't aware of what Mefloquine was and what it was doing. So I've watched that go to this. I don't get attacked anymore on Facebook. If I do, it's very rarely. And usually someone else will come in and say, do you understand these things? So life for me as an advocate in that way has definitely gotten better, safer. Yeah. And I feel like I'm actually being heard in the light I want to be heard in, And this is so important because it began in Somalia, and all those people, my nightmares came true. I knew that if this drug was okay and that they could keep plowing me under, that they were going to use it again. And they did, because then came Rwanda. So people like Dave Bona and others were now dosed again in Rwanda. Then came Afghanistan.
Like for you knowing what the drug did, for you knowing what the drug caused, because you seen it firsthand, what it did to your husband, what it ended up causing, and seeing all the other problems and hearing people speak out, and then seeing troops deployed to Rwanda, and then hearing stories on that, and then Scott Smith taking his life.
That was a killer for me. Right? I never met his wife, his mom, and I wanted to reach out to her, but I wasn't sure how she was going to take me either because people judged me funny back then. Yep. but my heart broke for her. And it was so needless because he was just a healthy human being that these guys poisoned to the point he took his life.
To the point that he was begging, telling his mom he didn't
was
want to take the drug
begging.
again. I don't want to take it again, Mom.
He did it to
I'm
Barbara
having
Toews.
hallucinations.
Sorry, remember the interview he did with the journalist who passed away later?
No, I haven't seen
She
that.
also had her struggles. He said, I don't want to take this drug anymore. I don't want to go back. Bonnie Toews.
Okay, I'll have to, we'll have to
So
pull that up.
he literally is on camera saying, I didn't want to take it anymore. I don't, this is what it done to me. They sent him back, and that's what happened.
Yep. Yep. And then, so then it happened there with him, like not even a year later, almost, right? I think.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going on. And so much so that, say, when I took it in 92, 93, like Clayton and Dave and everybody else, that then troops that were going to Afghanistan in 2005, 2006, that they now have the same side effects and are affected as much as I am now.
So I was 30 when this happened.
15 years later.
I was 30 when this happened. I'm 62 almost in June. Look at the age difference. These are 40-year-old Afghanistan warriors now again. Yeah. That's young. Clayton wasn't even 25. He's 5 years younger. He was 25 when this happened. He was a kid. We were kids, but they didn't learn anything, and they ruined more kids in
His
Rwanda.
life was robbed of him.
They all were.
Kyle's life was robbed.
You were all robbed of your health and your lives. And every wife that was attached to that and every child paid the price for that as well.
Yep.
I know it with mine. I know it with all the stories I've been told. And believe you and me, I've heard, like you've heard so many of these stories. It's almost push repeat for the symptoms and we even see reoccurring themes in people's dreams. And we've spoken of that.
Yep.
Some of them are not so nice to talk about. Some of them are, I've heard, like the one that I know of with other advocates, is that for some reason they seem to be able to, in their minds, fly away and visit every religious guru there is, speak with Jesus, speak with Allah, speak with all of these religious entities.
Yeah.
And at the time know everything there is to know, and then wake up. I know people who don't even know when they black out if they're going to take their family's lives. They don't even want to be with them anymore because that's what they're scared they'll do. How is that a life?
Yeah.
And how many people had to commit suicide before we really got this to even be recognized? We had a military suicide crisis. And I like to think that we had a hand in bringing that down a little once people started to realize what was going on and realize there was help and there were ways to manage this a little bit. It doesn't mean you get better, but you learn management ways, and we've found treatments, and now it's so important to just reach everybody, and that's been our mandate for so long now. My mandate always was that, but I'm not alone. This is global. We have advocates in Australia, France, Belgium. I mean, I just could go
They're
on.
everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Right?
They're on our buttons. There's 9 country flags on our button.
In Denmark, Bodil Holt.
Yes, Bodil Holt.
She took Mefloquine to go to Africa and never went to Africa then because of problems. There was I think there was one of a French, as a child, they went with their parents on a missionary work.
Yes.
Years later, they're having all these problems, couldn't find out what was wrong, and it all it's traced back to Mefloquine and missionary work.
Well, one would hope with all the noise we've made and with the progress they've made in the States that this wouldn't be a drug of choice anymore. But I've told you this, we've getting young women calling us. Quite often it's young women in their early 20s who are doing service trips to Guatemala. They're being given that. So I actually had a conversation with the doctor with her to get to the doctor, who actually feels so bad about what he's done to this one lady that I'm speaking to, that he was now wanting to learn about Mefloquine and stopped using it, but wants to help her, but doesn't know how. There's such a gap between the medical system and getting people help. This is where we lose people.
Yeah. And then there's different factors that influence people to take mefloquine later when they had choices to
Yes.
take it, right? So, because mefloquine was the only drug that you can take once a week.
Right.
So, many like sections, detachments, groups said, "Hey, let's all take mefloquine because it's only once a week." So that was the choice for many people. And one that I just heard just recently for women is that it wouldn't affect their menstrual cycle. So then women would take mefloquine
Yeah.
because one of the other ones did affect their
Yeah.
menstrual cycle.
So now I can't 100% say this is a fact, but we are starting to see more and more literature. I always believed it. This affects your DNA. This is affecting children born to people, either the wife had it or the husband were given it, and it is affecting childbirth. People are saying that this would have never happened to my child if he hadn't have taken this. So I know there's more literature or more research to do on there, but it's really starting to look like this is also a factor.
Yeah, there was a number of children born after
Yes.
Somalia that had issues.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and to people who had taken mefloquine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's starting to. It takes so long to prove those things, but we all know it in our hearts, right?
But even just within a unit, when you see your friend's child like that,
Yes.
or you see another friend's child like that, and you see a number within the unit when you don't when that's not like a normal thing.
Displaying common themes in each child that shouldn't, it's okay for one to be autistic, but do you all have and they're different symptoms from mental issues to deformities or all kinds of things. And for a long time, people have asked me, does this affect childbirth? I said we couldn't prove it. I always had a feeling it did because it affected the DNA. I believe this is one of those drugs that will affect I don't know. It not only affects your mind, it affects your body. You guys know what it does to you. That like the common, you have gastrointestinal issues, you have constant full-blown diarrhea, you have issues with your gut in lots of ways. But knowing that now, like Dave will tell you, he's been instrumental in that, it's as simple as knowing what to eat now that will help you mitigate some of those things.
Yeah, trying to change things, trying to change your diet, trying to exercise, trying to do things to mitigate.
Who had to learn that? We did. You did. Because the medical system refused to accept it.
Yeah, and
that's my point.
Everything
has come from veterans.
Yeah. The only way we found out with the problems even is by other veterans telling us or sharing the information. And we'll use a good example is the blue chart, right? The blue chart has like 34 side effects on it. And you sit there and you go, like, because I put so Dave shared the blue chart, whatever number of years ago. And then Sean Arnson then started sharing the blue chart. I then, I took mefloquine in Somalia, so I should know what the side effects are. But none of all those things are just things that you might attribute to something else, or you put your own answer to what you think it is.
So one of the most important reasons for that blue chart was to show people that for so long, the medical and the D&D and all the other people got away with saying that's PTSD. You are displaying PTSD symptoms. Yes, you are. Because if you look at that blue chart, look how many of those symptoms are exactly like PTSD. But the worst thing is the treatment. And as we know now, that taking drugs for PTSD amps up the problems with mefloquine so badly that most people become suicidal. Anyone on those drugs needs to get off those drugs, but they need to do it in a clinical setting. You cannot just quit once you're on those drugs for PTSD. You need to do it slowly and wean off, because we've lost people trying to do it that way.
I'm only smiling because I didn't do that, and I did it out of anger at the pharmacy because they didn't fill one of my prescriptions, and I was leaving for BC the next day, and or that night, and they didn't fill my prescription. So I said, "Screw it, I'm not. Then I won't take it.
Yeah.
Screw you." I was more like,
Yeah.
like, well, you want to be like,
Then
even
I'll
though
be like
it's
this.
my health, but
Exactly.
and then I stopped taking it. I went to BC for 2 weeks. I came back, and then it was like, do I go back on it? It's like, well, I wanted to come off it anyway, so then I went off it.
Yeah.
Because, say, how many years was I on medication? It's maybe from 2012, maybe till 2021, maybe, or something, is when I was on antidepressants.
Yes.
And out of
another
that,
bad thing.
So the other thing I didn't understand was that, well, I mean, antidepressants are actually not good for us,
No.
right? For having
Nope.
taken Mefloquine.
Nope.
So, and they also say by the time that you've switched on to your third antidepressant, that you're at a 67% chance of relapse and suicide.
Exactly.
And I've attempted twice
Exactly.
on my pills. So
Yeah.
the last time when I got mad and I said, and I quit taking Prestique, which apparently is a drug that's not very good to come off of.
No.
And I did it because I was
Because
angry
you're angry.
and left.
Well, you're really lucky that you got off it and that
Yeah.
you were able to do, because again, want to stress that has caused people to take their lives trying to come off it. And the last thing I want to do is do that by saying you need to get off these PTSD drugs, but you do, but you need to do it in a clinical fashion. Let's be realistic. If you had PTSD, the treatments speak a lot and drugs. Within 2 years, you should have seen improvement, not decline. And that there in itself should have told the clinical people that this is something else is awry here. You guys probably have both. Quite often, both PTSD and Mefloquine issues, but you can't treat PTSD in the same fashion if you have Mefloquine poisoning, right? Yeah. So that is one of the hugest, most important factors I like people to know. Because if you're listening to your doctor, you might get in more trouble. A lot of them don't understand Mefloquine or the Lariam, as it's known now. We have so much literature that we can provide, that doctor's letter, for example, that a veteran can take with them now, so that they're not fighting and trying to explain what's happening to them and discouraging them to get medical help, right?
Yeah.
And we have community out here. We are a huge community that people can reach out to and find help and find answers, and like-minded people who are suffering the same symptoms, right?
Yep.
And I believe that in itself has stemmed some of the suicidal ideation in people. It just doesn't seem like we hear it as much like we used to. It was daily.
I think that's changing a bit with the talk and with
Absolutely.
Going into it. But I will say that I think in the last month to 2 months, it's really been there's been like a heavy. It's been difficult for me.
Right.
Like a month ago, I was ready to go check myself into a hospital because I couldn't take it anymore. But then I was like, that didn't work, because the last time I went to a hospital to check myself in, I had to turn around and check myself out, because it was like, no, I can't be here. Right. No. So then I was like, I can't go there because that doesn't work. So then what? What do I do? That's
where I would have said, get back to Dr. Zakuski or somebody and do some more neurofeedback, because I have seen how well that works. You allowed me to be a party the first time I got to see one, and I saw the brain mapping, and I saw what
you were there with me when we went and did.
And I've seen what it's done for others, and it's amazing.
Yep.
And I think that I wish people had more access to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for me, it was unfortunate then, because I was just getting into it, and then they did the COVID, and then you couldn't get out, you couldn't do anything, and then I stopped all treatment whatsoever.
I know, and he did find a way to do it remotely, which was cool. He would send the headsets and things, so I mean, I just encourage people. It might not be him, but there are other. Dave does a Loretta neurofeedback in Saskatoon. There's a doctor there, and it's starting to be more prevalent. And
Yep.
it sure can't hurt you. It helps your
Oh,
mind. I seen yours
right.
go from just calm when
Yeah.
he did that. Right, you could actually see the activity, and it was amazing.
Yeah. It's very so. Like other people want to do that because somewhat when you do the brain mapping, then it's like, yeah. See, I have a brain injury.
Yeah.
Right. That instead of just saying I think,
You see it.
then you do it and you know it.
I guess they
right?
say a picture speaks 1,000 words. Well, looking at that picture of your brain, I saw
Yeah.
this part, and then I saw what he did, and I saw the calming, and and then you're calmer after for a very long time. I'm a fan of it. I think it works very well.
Yep. And I, anything in order to change and bring your stress levels down, so that when you go out the door, you're, that much better to handle anything that happens.
Right.
Right. Or just to make your life better by taking that walk in the morning to like calm down and ground yourself, and then
don't spend your day wondering what to do. Make yourself a list, because you guys do well more focused than unfocused, and I seen that.
Yeah.
It could just be a mundane task, but you have something to focus on.
Yep. Oh no, it's a complete focus.
Yes.
Because that's why I can't stay in one place, because if I stay too long, I start to focus inwards on myself, and then I start to spin, and then the only way I can fix myself is to get in my truck and start driving somewhere.
Right? Do you know that driving a vehicle, I was told this by a psychiatrist, and I believe it. He told me that when you are in a bad way, drive, because it's the only thing you actually have control of at the time. And that's why we tend to feel better when we go for a drive. You're in control. You're finally in control of something, right?
Yeah.
And so it made sense when I said, why do I always feel better when I go for a ride? When things would get bad, I just jump in my car and go, right? No destination in mind, but just go.
Yeah. I also feel that it's like an energy that builds up inside us, right? So when we're sitting here and I'm spinning, and it's all this energy is building up inside me, and you can't get it out. So that's like, that's why I go for walks.
Yeah.
Like when I first got Spark, I'd take her for like a 15-minute walk because I didn't like walking.
Right.
Walking takes too long to get there, right? You should run there.
Yeah.
I can't run anymore, and I don't really want to walk. But so now it's kind of flipped, and now I walk for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
So sometimes I'm like, no, Spark, this is for me. Keep going, right? But
yeah, that's good.
And it expels the energy the same way, I think, the same way driving does.
Yeah.
And even to say, like one time I had gone out and I got spun up, and I was out like out to where was I now? Anyways, I was about 2.5 hours from Edmonton. So I was all spun up. I left. On the whole way back to Edmonton, I wanted to drive my truck into a wall. I wanted to do all that. Drove home, got to my sister's, and instead of medicating, I went straight into a walk, and I walked for 2.5 hours. Like we did 5 of our normal laps. That's like a half an hour walk.
Awesome.
Before I calmed down, then I went in the house and I was better, right? But it's just you get so built up with this energy that you're ready to explode, and then.
So as Dave explains, there's that thing happening in your gut again, right? Because you guys have such bad gut gastro that lots of times anything good for you has gone out the back door. What's going out the back door is also your serotonins, your feel good, hormones.
Yep.
Giving that walk and that chance for those to build back where they should be also helps you to feel better about yourself. So those are the things you can totally do for yourself at any time, and just changing the scenery, going for a walk, going for a drive. If you're capable, you shouldn't be driving if you're not, right?
Yep.
But just knowing those little bitty things, they're not little bitty when you can actually get some reprieve from your symptoms from it. So,
Yeah.
that's what is important to me, is getting those messages out that there are ways to do things, that you're not alone, that we can help. You have a community. You're
Yep.
not, it's not going to go away on your own. You need a community, and we're here. And that is why I still keep doing this rally, and that was born of an anger fit I had as well. But that was Trudeau's fault. We now rally, but that's okay.
Yeah.
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 This will be our 8th one this year, which is amazing.
Nice. And where do you plan on having your rally?
This year's in Victoria. Beautiful,
Nice.
Beautiful Victoria. I've been asked to come there. We try to go. We've had other, like, Kingston supported us with a rally. Edmonton supported us with a rally. Bruce Given put it on. Stefan Beardwood and Richard Delve in Kingston. And so it was important for us to take our rally to those places. We started moving around because we were in Ottawa, and then COVID stopped that too, right?
Yep.
So we went to Saskatoon, where we knew, we could get by. So a couple of years we did that. But we really need to get loud again. We really need to make some noise, and I really feel like Victoria is going to be that rally for us. I really do. Yep. I've had a lot of people come out now, and they're helping, and shout out to those people, because it's not easy to put a rally on, and
there's a lot of coordination. There's permits. There's getting the equipment. Are you a millionaire?
No, not at all.
So then comes fundraising to find the money, because you've been in this fight since really, we can say, since before the beginning almost, right? So when the drug was first taken, you were seeing the symptoms in your husband and seeing what was happening. Then you got the phone call that changed your life forever. And all this goes on, and you've been there all the time fighting, right? When your life was being threatened, you were there fighting, right? You stepped back, and then you came back in again, right? So in this battle, in this fight for justice on what happened with Mefloquine, you're the queen of this battle, Marj, right? And it's not, and it's something that you can admit and you can say, because you've been at it all the time. And the only reason maybe you haven't gotten any more death threats is because you've built up an army around you, right?
I do have an army around me.
You have an army of people that are people are joining. They don't know that you're part of the army. They don't know that you're the queen. They don't know that all this is going on, but that's where the fight started, right?
It did, yeah.
And we can say it went back even with Bev, and it went back with Val and everything, but you're the one at the very start, and you're the one that's always been there and have been fighting and fighting and fighting. You, along with many others, lost everything, right? You lost your name.
Yeah.
You lost your family. You felt shame for absolutely nothing that was your fault.
I was made to feel like that.
Yeah.
So
that they made you feel like that when it was them that did it, right?
Well, the D&D was smart. They made Clayton look so bad that everybody was so angry, and so it took all the onus off of them, and they used it to their advantage for so many years.
So the only story they wanted to tell was, hey, Clayton was he was an asshole. He was this kind of guy.
Yeah.
He fought. He did this. Nobody would have. They went to listen to anybody saying, no, that wasn't Clayton, right? No. So like I talked with the guy the other day, and he said, no, that was completely out of character for Clayton.
I've met a lot of people other than the naysayers, but I've met a lot of people who said, "Oh, I spent time with him, Margie. That's not how he was. That's not the guy, And I know it wasn't, but it was a really good way to take all the everybody's eyes off of what really happened and place it here, right? And then they disbanded the Airborne. That made it even worse, but it made D&D look shiny, and they were okay.
Yeah.
And then they kept sending the D&D hound dogs after me and Dr. Keystone, and finally succeeded in kind of scaring me silent for a while, but it didn't work for long. And, even though I was silent, I wasn't silent. I just did what I could.
But because in the end, the truth comes out.
Yeah.
Right? That you can't hide it. That eventually people want to talk and people want to tell their story, and people start to look and say, you know what? No, man, the drug was, when they did the first, it was the Fifth Estate, I think, did the story in '98.
Yeah. Do you see how quickly that one went underground? And it was true. It was a good story, and poof, it was gone.
And that one really was better than
Yes.
than the last story.
Yep.
With W5.
Yeah, it
Right?
was a really well done documentary, but it's hard to find it. It was.
You almost can't find it now.
No, you almost
We
cannot.
were looking and looking, and I couldn't find anything. All I could find was the transcript of the talking.
Yeah, it got buried real quick.
Yeah.
It
Because,
did.
well, it got buried quicker now,
Yeah.
because I think more stuff is coming out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That more of the truth is being revealed. if
Well,
you
in
would.
between those times, where Clayton and the disbanding of the airborne, there were also things happening in the States. That soldier who killed his wife and put her in a duffel bag, right?
Mm.
There was another soldier who killed
That one
his
I don't
wife.
know, but I mean,
He was on TV with his actual stepfather. He had lied to the stepfather for so long, and then he finally told him. I don't think he even remembers doing it.
Yeah.
And there was another. So there were two wives taken out basically from Mefloquine soldiers, and
Yep.
those were in the States, Fort Bragg, I believe, and Drum. If I want to say that, but I could be wrong.
So Fort Bragg, it was 4 murders in 6 weeks.
That's
4 wives were murdered
there. You go.
in 6 weeks. Having read the story, I know that 3 of them had taken Mefloquine.
Yeah.
I know that 2 took their lives at the same time. A third one took his life while in custody. One of those soldiers was serving, I think, in Iraq.
Yes.
And had asked to go home. He had to solve the problems he was having marital problems, and then went back and killed his wife.
Yeah.
And himself.
Yeah.
Right? One of the guys, after killing, was going house to house, and people couldn't understand what he was saying or what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because he was completely in psychosis or whatever.
Because that's how it is. You
Yep.
just literally flip a switch, and you are in full-blown psychosis.
Yeah.
After 2016, advocacy forced the change of that drug box label because it didn't say anything. It did not say anything about the effects of taking it. Today, it does say that. It does say that this medication has the potential to cause full-blown psychosis. Lasting effects may be permanent. That's in the literature. So I liken to think now you wouldn't even take something. Most people won't. And Dr. Remington likes to say that it's now in the back of the medicine cabinet. That's not good enough for me. I want the recipe burnt. I don't think this should ever be given to anyone again. And within 3 months of our guys' boots hitting the ground in Somalia, that drug was already on the market to the public. And most of the public don't understand. They're taking Mefloquine. It's Lariam, same recipe, same drug.
Yep.
And now you hear all kinds of stuff happening within the general public.
But you see, in the general public, it'll be harder to find the truth.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Because, within the military, everything's documented, everything's
and you're a
kinda
group
covered.
that we can
You're in a
monitor.
group? Yeah.
So you
So
can see it.
I was in a group of 900
Yes.
people that went to Somalia, that took the drug, that, so right? But, Bodil Holt, some child goes with the missionaries, right?
Yes.
And say also in the U.S., so even once they're out of the military, they can go to the pharmacy, they can go to the base pharmacy and say, I'm taking a trip, I'm going to the Caribbean, and we're going through, St. Lucia?
Yeah, St. Lucia. Yeah.
That you need to take anti-malaria.
Yeah.
And the pharmacy on the base in the U.S. military will give their veterans the drug. So I had met I had met a guy out on the East Coast, an American, that took Mefloquine after he was out because they were doing a trip.
You see
And
how widespread that is?
yeah,
Like we have people, you know yourself, to Finiquin in
yeah,
Australia, the big bad brother Mefloquine wasn't good enough. You didn't learn enough from that. They had to carry on. But in the same token, all them countries have bought onto the idea that this drug is dangerous. And Canada continues to stay on the back burner because the only way they can say you're right is to admit to
they
an
were wrong.
illegal and forced drug trial in Somalia
Yeah,
because it was not approved. That drug was illegal. It wasn't even approved in Canada. And John Cummins found me literature also that showed, they said at the time, no, we're not using it. Stamped, boom, I had a piece of paper, 1,000 units of Mefloquine in Somalia. That was enough for a long time. 1,000 units.
Yep.
They fully intend on using it for the rest of the time. It cost pennies compared to doxycycline and Malarone.
Yep.
They're every day and they're $5 and $2 respectively. Where giving troops one penny's worth pill a week was much more, doable for the DND. It didn't matter at what cost, but it was cheaper.
Yep.
At any rate, it's
and forced people to take, whether they had side effects or not, and right.
They were told that if they didn't take it, Clayton and them at the time, they were told if they draw blood and you didn't have a loading dose worth of Mefloquine in your blood, then you would be court-martialed and sent home.
Sure.
So they all took it because they're good soldiers and they do what they're told.
So one of the people I interviewed earlier a couple weeks ago was Cameron Tetreault, and his wife is a nurse, or was becoming a nurse. So then, because her husband took Mefloquine, she did a case study on Mefloquine, and it's a pretty interesting case study that she brought all the information, because a lot of the stuff is all backing up the blue chart on all the different side effects. One thing that I found interesting was that they said that the amount of people that took the drug and took it finished their prescription, right? So you were given 40 pills for that time frame, and you took all of them. For the case of Mefloquine, the amount of people that take the complete prescription is 48%. Where was around 78%.
Oh, it was much better. And they know
So doesn't that tell something right there? Why are people stopping to take it, right? Myself, I'm too stupid, and I continue to take it. And I never... You
didn't even connect the two.
Yeah, I never connected no dots. Not even in Afghanistan when I had to go to the MIR and was put on IV and everything because I was like really sick, and then
Sean Arnston.
Yeah,
he didn't know, and it was. I remember him having an epiphany and saying, Marj Matchee, you saved my effing life. All he needed was the knowledge to know that and that's all anybody needs. You just need to know that you're not wrong. You're not crazy. This isn't something that's because you have PTSD that you can't get under control.
Then why am I not getting better?
Exactly.
They say PTSD is curable.
It is.
So then why am I not better?
Exactly. And that's why we really need people to differentiate their problems. And you may have both. So dealing with the Mefloquine issue is more important than your PT. Everything else will fall into place after, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We've come a long way, Mike. You and I both. I've come a long way, and I've seen the growth. I've seen the traction we've gained, the rallies of help, the awareness, you going around the country, Dave being on the phone with over, probably 5,000 soldiers over 3 years trying to find them. It's like everybody's working hard to, find their brothers and sisters in this. And and bring them into the fold, because nobody needs to suffer alone out there with this anymore.
So they understand.
We gotcha.
Yeah, there's too many people out there, say, that are surviving on like 2 hours sleep a night.
Yeah.
Because some people wake themselves up in the middle of the night so that they don't go into their REM sleep, so they don't have the nightmares.
Exactly.
There's some people that they can't stay asleep. They sleep for 2 hours, and then they're half walking zombies,
Yeah,
right?
and they're
Because
not healthy.
You can't kind of recharge yourself in that 2 hours, and then you're going out, and then you're being hit with other difficulties, and
no one should
and then
feel like
shit
that.
unravels quicker.
Exactly.
When
And the
you're
gun
like that.
sitting beside you.
Yeah.
And I see this over and over. I may not suffer those symptoms, but I've certainly heard them from thousands of soldiers who, it's just frightening that you even have. It is so sad that you even have to be in this predicament in this day and age. It just blows me away.
And to think 31 years ago you were yelling, right? To say, what the
It'd
fuck?
be 32 in December. Yeah. What the hell are you guys doing to our soldiers? Yeah.
32 years ago you were screaming, right? To say, what the hell? Getting death threats.
Yeah.
And now 32 years later, it's like they're finally, people are finally catching on.
I think it took about 20 years after Somalia before people started to figure out, which is sad it took that long. But
how many years?
Probably about 20 years before people started to say, hey, maybe she's not wrong. Maybe it is Mefloquine. And then finding me and talking about it and saying, so on average, I hear Somali guys usually about 15 to 20 years before they connected the dots.
Yep.
And realized that I wasn't just spouting silliness.
And even then, like, I would say, like, you identify there was a problem, but you don't realize how big the problem is, right?
Yeah.
Until, like for myself, driving across the country, stopping, getting out, going to the back of my truck and looking at the blue chart and going, what? That's on there?
Yeah.
That's a symptom?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to sit there and go through the list. Say we did a live one with 3 guys that went to Afghanistan, and then 2 of us that were in Somalia as well as Afghanistan. And all 5 of us all had, 30 of the 34 symptoms.
I don't doubt it.
Right?
I don't doubt it.
And then it's heartbreaking to know that theirs came 15 years after ours.
And there's one thing
why didn't we learn anything?
And again, some it affected quicker and some not.
Oh,
so
completely.
We still don't know how it manages to pass that blood-brain barrier and affect the brain a lot more and every other part of you. Those are the ones that really have a hard time to get back any semblance of being able to keep control over it, right? We still don't know why some do that and some don't. That's a real mystery yet.
Some they're affected right from day one.
Yes,
right?
Instantly. One pill and you're never right again.
Yep.
One pill.
And others, it seems like it takes 20, 25 years before you start to see the symptoms, because if as long as we stay busy, we don't notice some of the problems, right?
But you can justify those problems
sometimes. With something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got
didn't
diarrhea.
Get much sleep last night.
I got diarrhea 20 years later. Must be something wrong with my guts, or I ate something, or I'm getting old. I can't eat greasy food. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't sleep. Well, that's just maybe I got insomnia or something. But you put them all together.
Yeah.
And once people realize that and connect all the dots to their health issues, then they realize and it's like, aha.
Yep.
And that happening more and more every day now to people. I feel like we've just, in this last 10 years especially, really managed to reach a lot of people. Thank God for social media. We've all taken our crack at doing a podcast We got your 6 for a year, right? And I reached so many people, but I kind of run down, and we're all human. We run out of steam, and that's why I keep asking for advocates. We need advocates. This is not going to go away yet. And with this lawsuit, they move slow, and I know it gets very discouraging, but this lawsuit to me shows progress, because there wouldn't even have been even a dream or a sniff of that 10 years ago, they would have laughed you out of there. Now there's over 3,500 litigants on that lawsuit, right?
Yeah.
And we all need to do our part now to support that lawsuit and to be loud and get the message out and help the general public to understand, because they'll support us in the end too. And from what I see, most people in the general public have a huge respect for their veterans, right?
Yeah.
And they don't even realize how duped they were.
Yeah. Everybody, like the politicians, the general people, everything goes around the veterans, and that's, so, to try to get a vote, let's
Yeah.
talk about veterans.
Yeah.
To try to do this, let's do this for veterans.
Yes.
When really, it's
Yes.
more that it's
a platform.
a platform
That's-
to advertise or to
That's
say
been
that
very-
I'm doing the good
yes,
fight, right?
Yes. And I get excited when they show up. I think, oh, somebody's talking about Oldland, they're gone. As soon as they get in, or if they didn't get in, it's gone. They're not pounding the pavement anymore.
Yeah.
You don't hear the word Mefloquine come from anybody's lips again. So you have to be stubborn and stick it out. And I mean, there's a lot of us dedicated to seeing this to the end,
Yeah.
And it's 32 years. I'm just about, and I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. So,
Yeah.
I get run down. I get discouraged. I'm human, but people pick me back up and dust me off and point me in the right direction, and I get going again. So,
Yeah.
it's Victoria this year.
And I mean, you had death threats before, that was to stop you, but now there's 3,500 other people out there making noise.
Exactly.
Or that are saying there's problems.
Yep.
And then there's people that didn't even take it that are making noise.
Yes. Because a lot of them, and you can almost talk to anyone nowadays, and they'll say, oh, Mefloquine, yes, I know somebody who took that, where it used to be an hour to explain what it was, you just have to say Mefloquine now, and people most often will recognize the word now, right?
Yeah.
Or they've had family who've taken it. Yeah. You were there, I believe, at that meeting with the Legion the first time the command branch invited us in Ottawa. And I don't think there was one person at that table who was not affected by Mefloquine, including the Legion members. Because you remember, we saw the tears, we saw the pain, and we heard all their stories after. That was just one meeting. But that's all around veterans, of course. But it's way larger than even you and I can get your head around, right?
Yep. I think it's a huge story, and with so many parts.
Yeah.
That one part doesn't know it's attached to another.
Exactly.
Right.
But that was used for their advantage for a very long time, and now the parts are starting to come together, right? And people are joining forces, and they're sharing their knowledge, and it's gone a lot. It's really changing the atmosphere, and making people feel like they're not crazy. That it's okay to come out, tell your story now, because there's thousands other like me telling that same story too now. So and they're not being shy anymore. They're actually coming out in media and telling stories. W5, APT, all those. Yeah. People remember those stories. Yeah. Because they're impactful.
And yet now W5 is finished. Yeah. Right? They did their last show or their...
So again, we can't depend on mainstream media. We haven't been able to, because anything can come along and knock a story back. We've done everything, and one day we're the main news, the next we're gone. It needs to... That's why doing these podcasts, even the one I did, I mean, it's something people can go back and look on and use for resources, right?
Yep.
What you say and what I say might help someone tomorrow or today. And, and it's the same when I did We Got Your Six. So many people found answers that it was just amazing. It made me feel good,
Yep. Yep. Even thinking back to your podcast, that almost seems like 10 years ago.
It does, doesn't it? And it wasn't that long ago.
And it's like so much, stuff is going on, happening. For me, it's like I'm living a faster life, or like, I'm seeing more people and doing more things all the time, constantly, that it's...
keeps you busy, and it's moving
right
along.
It makes time seem even longer, right?
Because
it's not it's not sitting at home for,
Exactly. Or
you know,
dwelling.
it's always going out and meeting people and people calling and saying, hey, you got to come here. But
I don't know if you're like me, but healing others is healing as well for you.
oh yeah, no, completely.
For me,
Right.
it helped me get past Somalia,
Yeah.
I guess. Even though I didn't do anything wrong, I still felt like I had to do something to fix this, you know? And especially, I wanted my daughter and my grandchildren to not think that that was the legacy their grandfather had to leave behind, or their
Yeah.
dad, you know, her dad. But maybe in the end, what he did will save lives.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, you know, if it's bringing something to light
Hmm.
that we know now, I think has a very dark history to it. And if it shines a light on that to stop it, then like, because otherwise, when would it stop?
Exactly.
Right?
I didn't think I'd ever get this far. I mean, to me, to be sitting here talking like this and knowing that there's thousands other out there ready to back us up, you know, it was a pretty lonely, quiet world out there in the beginning. And I just thought, am I wrong? I kept thinking, am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong, but I wasn't wrong. And then something would happen. I'd be like, no, I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, it's back then you must have really felt like you had a tinfoil hat.
Oh, I did. I did.
And now it's like you were the sane one. When the rest of us were insane, that were saying, say, I watched that first Fifth Estate one going, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
The drug didn't do anything. Fucking own up for what you
Yeah,
did.
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And then you start to realize how much the drug messed people up, how much the drug completely affected their behavior.
Yeah.
To say, oh my God, like, it was the drug.
It was the drug.
It's not it's not that, you know, Clayton's an asshole. It's not that Mike Rude's an asshole. No, it was the drug that was taking shit away. And one thing I think the drug really took away was empathy.
It did.
You know, I can you know, to use well, one example right now, it would have been after Somalia. We went to Fort Bragg. That was probably like in 93 maybe or something. But, you know, we went out to the bar, come out, you know, guys were fighting everywhere, you know, the regular army activities,
Yeah.
right? But, you know, my friend and I were outside then, and there was a Canadian guy in a jump smock laying flat on his back in the parking lot with his like head on the curb out. And me and my friend and I looked at him and said, do you know him? And he's like, no. I said, yeah, me neither. And then we went back inside. Right?
Just cold inside, hey?
And you know,
I know.
is that, you know, that I really feel came from the drug, right?
It did.
I think it took away all empathy. You know,
I think that that's part of the reason that drug was invented in the first place, because it caused that. It caused you to have a lack of empathy. It caused aggression, and these are important when you're a soldier. You don't want guys to have feelings. You just want them to go out and be what I tell you to do. You go do and do it without a heart.
And insomnia. We don't want you to sleep. We want you to be on duty all the time.
Exactly.
We want you to be ready.
Yeah. And I mean, above all else, that drug was as cheap as it could be made.
And a lot of the known side effect, or a lot of the side effects that come from Mefloquine were already known.
They were.
Right? Because
you can see the literature nowadays that it was always there. They
kept using the same ingredients, getting the same effects,
Yep.
right? So back in World War II, when they were giving the Atabrine or whatever,
yeah,
that was causing hallucinations, paranoia, insomnia.
Yeah.
Fast forward, they're using the same ingredient. Mefloquine is causing the same thing.
Yep.
Right? It's just doesn't make much.
No, but we'll all just need to push forward now. And I mean, I'm really glad that I'm not that viewed at the same way I was, that I can actually speak now and we can move this thing forward. And
Yep.
I think that the more media coverage we can get for ourselves, even if it isn't mainstream media, but every time we say something, even if it's just on the street, you're
Oh, yeah.
likely going to save somebody down the road, because it's amazing how many people need to hear it. And every day, everywhere it happens to me.
Yep. Well, I mean, because you've been at it since the beginning, right? And
1992.
so just say you made a difference in Sean Arnett's life for him to say, "Oh my God, this is what it is."
It was
right?
an epiphany moment. Yep.
Yeah. And then once again, to even say I was in Somalia, I should know that I have problems, but I didn't realize. And then I'm looking at the blue chart over and over again, going, "Oh my God,
Click.
oh my God,
Click.
oh my God,
Yeah, it's
oh my
starting
God,"
to click.
right?
Yep.
I know I have PTSD. Because I had a flashback
Yep.
driving through Cape Breton
Mm.
at a rolled up blue carpet on the side of the road, and I went, "Oh, it's a dead body,"
Oh yeah.
because I seen a body rolled up in a blue blanket in Somalia, and right, but I say the majority of all my problems came from Mefloquine.
Oh,
Right?
I can guarantee you, I would agree with you 100%. I would agree with you. You are not the same person that left before you took that pill. You know that. Everyone who knows you, who grew up with you, would say the same thing. It takes a long time to find your way back, but you can.
Yep.
And maybe it's not ever going to be perfect, but you can definitely live a better life. And that's one of the things people affected with this need to know, that there is hope.
Yep.
You can live a better life than what you're living, struggling alone out there.
Yep.
Because
the sooner you realize what's wrong with you,
yes,
and then start to make changes to fix that,
yes,
your life is going to improve. Whether it's a little bit
or a lot.
or a lot, it's going to improve.
We've seen families reunited because families now get to understand, my dad's not an asshole. My dad never meant to do those things to me, or my mom. They're not crazy. They've been poisoned, and and then they find help and they find treatment. And for me, there's nothing finer than seeing a family reunited.
Yep.
And being a part of that. That's huge.
Yeah.
It makes it worthwhile.
Because to say that almost. So when I asked Stephen Beardwood about what he was most happy about, or what was he most proud about, and it was building the relationship back with his family.
Yeah.
Right, with his
Absolutely.
children. And he was robbed of his life with his family because of a drug that we took. Right.
So I'm just going to give him a little shout out here. His Instinctive Measures book, I read it. I think that anyone searching for answers or feeling lost should read that book.
Okay.
I think it's important. I think that you will find your own stories within that book. Yep. And I think it's an important story to read. Yep. If you have Mefloquine poisoning or want to understand your spouse or your dad or your mom. I think this is a really good book for that. Yeah, it comes from someone who lived it, breathed it, survived it, and wrote it down, right?
Yep.
It's like a how-to.
It's a very, very powerful story.
Absolutely.
I really,
yeah,
to realize what he lost over this whole
over
the drug. Yep.
Yeah.
Over them forcing.
Exactly. An illegal and forced drug trial. Because anytime that they wanted to come off it, like I said, if you didn't have that loading dose in your blood, you were court-martialed.
Yep.
And that's not something any soldier wants.
And we know that it came out with General Dallaire that he said that even he was threatened with a court-martial for not taking the drug.
Absolutely.
So
I know guys who were.
Yep.
And so do you. Yep. Simply because they couldn't do it anymore.
Yep.
And they had wonderful military careers. They went there with bravado and the best intentions to be good soldiers, and they robbed them of it. They robbed them of their families and the rest of their life to be proper again,
Yep.
You go there and never come back. You expect that with PTSD. You expect that with, maybe you got stepped on a landmine and so now you're missing an arm or like, you expect those things as a veteran. You don't expect to have the very people who are supposed to have your back handcuff you both
Mhm.
hands behind your back and send you into a firefight. Like they disabled everyone.
Yeah.
And no one should feel like anything that happened over there, in my mind, no one should feel like they should be ashamed of anything that happened to them. Just be thankful you survived and that
Yeah.
you survived this drug.
Yep. You know what I was thinking of was of making a coin and call it a Mefloquine survivor's coin.
What a good idea.
Mm.
That's a great idea. I think tangible things like that, sometimes when you're feeling like crap, you can look at it and I am a survivor, right?
Yep.
I can do this.
Yep.
And I think that's sometimes we all need to hear that, right?
Yep.
So I think that's a great idea.
Yep. Yep. And I thought, anyways,
Yeah.
put something out, but
Yeah.
because it truly is a struggle, and you know,
It
our
is.
survival at times is on a thread,
It absolutely is.
right?
It absolutely is. And that's why, even as good as you think you can get, you still need a support system to get through this. There's days.
Oh yeah, without the support
Yes.
staff, you're done,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. And that may mean an advocate, it may mean somebody in your family, but there is a whole group here. If people don't have someone to turn to that can talk to all of us, you just got to get on our page. We're there, Annual Veterans Mefloquine Conference page, and you can just go there and join on.
Nice.
Yeah. We got your six and all the other ones, and Katrina Jenkins, who's been a hardcore advocate with us, she took all of our stuff and just kind of put it into one page. So those resources are there, and if
Yep.
you don't find them, you can ask, and
Nice.
we're there. Yeah.
Yep.
As well as your page,
Yep.
Rude Awakening page. You can find out anything you want to know, or if not, you'll find it for them. I know.
Yep. Just a matter of pointing people to the direction to get the information they need, and
Yeah, because
and to make it more make it more accessible, right? Or make it more available or easier to get at, right?
Yes. Nobody, you know yourself with the symptoms that people suffer, paperwork, things that upset you, trying to research stuff. Those are things that don't go well with Mefloquine brain. They just don't.
Yep.
And so if we can dumb that down and just make it a click, then
Yep.
that's even better.
Yep.
And I don't mean dumb down. I mean make
No,
it,
but it is.
Yeah, I don't
mean
mean it in that way. And nobody's dumb, but it's just a figure
no,
of
but
speech.
it's very
It's
like say
discouraging.
you can be very affected by it,
Yeah.
and depending on where you are in how you're dealing with your side effects at the moment,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So like say as I start to get triggered and start to melt down, shall we say, it's like doors are closing on the ship,
Yeah.
right? To save the ship, you got to close, you got to lock all the
Yeah.
doors down so you don't sink. And I get to the point where almost like say it's my last door, right? And that door is my phone, right? And if I can't get on here to call for help or get somebody to get me out of it, then I'm done.
I know.
Right? So then on my last phone, only because I lost it, but I never had a passcode or nothing, because when I start to,
You can't remember the passcode.
I don't know the passcode. I don't know how to
Exactly.
even open it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
It just, and so it does have to be dumbed down for those moments
Click.
when I'm really
Yes.
having a hard time.
Yes. Well, there you go.
Right?
That's exactly what I mean. And I hear it all the time. Like,
Yeah,
and VAC is hard enough for people, right? Like navigating that. But even that, you can ask for help. There's people who are veterans who've been through it that can guide people. So yeah. Don't be alone, people. That's all I can say. You don't have to be.
But everybody, when they're in that place, that's
know.
where they are, and they
Mhm.
don't know where to go, and they don't know who to ask, and then they only just think, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. I can't take it anymore. I can't handle it. Right? And that's what leads to it, right?
I know. And that's when I hope that they would say, oh my God, there's somebody out there I can talk to. There's the Mefloquine Rally people. There's Mike Rude. There's, Dave Bona. There's somebody they can talk to. And there always is.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I can't stress that enough.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah. So here we are.
Yeah.
It's 2024 this year, and we're just finally getting into the courts in the last few years. So again, we need to really make noise, support that, support
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
And really, it's, before they looked at Somalia, say, and said, why did he act that way? It was more to say their actions, the people, what they did. It wasn't to look and say, geez, I wonder if the drug had anything to do with
Yeah.
that, right? They only looked at it at the people and said, why did he do this?
Look what he
Why
did.
did
Yeah.
he
Look what he
do
did.
this?
How could he do that?
Instead of looking at it
Yeah.
and saying, I wonder how the drug made Clayton like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how the drug made Mike Rood.
Yeah.
I wonder how it made these people.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the underlying thing that a lot of people are saying is it made us aggressive. It made us angry. It made us, right.
The minute you know something's wrong and you've been damaged, you're angry anyway, because how the hell did this happen to me, right? And that's an anger in itself. Accepting this has happened to you. I've seen that anger over and over, right? You get angry because, damn it, I was a healthy human being and you did this to me, right?
Yep.
So that anger does rightfully surface. Anybody would be angry, but people are learning to turn that anger into progress and helping other people. And for that, we're winning. Well, I've seen it. I've seen the change. You've seen it yourself. So
Yep.
I think that the blame game's over.
Yep.
Stop shaming yourself for letting the D&D or anyone else put the shame or blame on a human who's reacted funny or badly because they took Mefloquine. That's exactly what it does.
Because they poisoned us.
They
That's what they
poisoned
wanted
you.
it to do to us.
Exactly.
And that's what it did to us. Then we're saying it and they're trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is what it really
See, and the thing is that now if they admit they're wrong, the fallout from that is 30 years worth of fallout.
Yeah.
Try fix that. Y'all should have thought about it in the beginning when they could have helped a few hundred or a few thousand people. Now it's
millions.
It's everywhere.
Because you think of all the civilians that took it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like say Sean Arnson with Peter Guthrie.
Yep.
They passed motion 502 to look into the effects of
Yes.
Mefloquine poisoning or Quinism in both the military and the civilians that took it in Alberta, which is something that we want to now try to
bring up again and
bring up and start pushing in that.
And
because we have a door jam in the door in Alberta, and now we should be pouring through it and trying to get stuff moving.
They passed the motion. That. The literature is there, and they agreed. And now that just needs to be brought back into life. So now we have to bring it up. Yeah.
We have to go back there.
Write your parliament.
Some of us,
ministers of parliament. Yeah, some of us will revisit that for sure.
And I'm pretty sure we're going to start up a Quinism Foundation of Canada. Correct?
We sure would like to.
Yeah, we're going to.
We're going to.
Yeah.
These things, these are amazing things that will, benefit so many people. So many people.
Yep.
Both public and military.
To help.
Yeah.
And I think pushing out of Alberta to work on the ground that we gained there, but in each of the provinces, we should be trying to do the same thing that Alberta did, or that happened in Alberta. And that really, all of that reflects on a lot of advocacy by many people.
Absolutely.
Because, it's not just one person making a noise, it's many people making a noise.
What's that saying? If it's one mosquito, you really don't care.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah.
But when there's a storm,
that's where they could say it, give you a death threat,
and
think that maybe she'll go away.
Yeah.
And then when it's too large, you can't. That tactic doesn't work with 3,500 people, maybe
3,500.
Or
then
that's
you're
just
making the litigants.
Yeah.
We're talking probably about 45 to 50,000 people.
Yeah.
And in Canada alone, and then it's global, right? So, we've come a long way. And
Yeah.
I have hope now that maybe sooner or later the government will wipe the egg off their face and face what they've done and admit to it. Admit the wrong you've done to your soldiers and compensate them and find research, work on research. This is not a dead issue. I'm sure that there is something out there we can find out. It shouldn't just be veterans figuring out how to heal themselves from something
Yeah.
you've done to them.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
fix this.
Yeah. And then, I mean, even to think that they're using Mefloquine for lupus,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. I don't know. I know that people need a cure, but this is not the cure. This is a recipe that needs to be burnt.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. Right. Strucken from the record.
Ever.
The name never to be spoken again.
Yeah.
Right.
That would
that
be
kind
that
of
would be
that kind of
yeah, and when all this is done, which it will have an ending, I believe
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I believe that when we hit the final mark, and maybe it's the lawsuit, maybe it's just finally enough advocacy, but when we're done, then people will heal. And nobody's going to heal until that's done. Not completely. We're going to find reprieve and we're going to find things, but people need answers, like I do. I believe everyone needs an answer. They need the truth.
Yep. And there's a lot of people out there suffering.
Uh-huh.
And a lot
In
of people
silence.
a lot of people that need to get it off their chest.
Yes.
To say I'm not a monster.
No.
It was the drug. The
You're
drug
not a
made me the
monster.
way I am.
Exactly.
Right?
And if anyone ever wanted to tell their story, we would open a mic
Yeah,
anytime.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
you would,
right.
I would. I'd
Yeah.
bring back We Got Your Six and do an interview.
Yeah.
But those stories are important, and people need to hear them, and people need to say them because
Yeah.
they need to be heard.
Yep.
You needed to be heard. I needed to be heard. It's important.
And you don't know, but by one person, by changing one person, what that can do.
Exactly.
So I mean, if you even want to look at it, so you change Sean Arnson's perspective, Dave with the blue chart, and then Sean Arnson goes ahead and gets the motion 502 to be put through.
It just
That's
takes
a spark.
that, right?
That's a spark that you started,
Well, thank you.
right? That led to that.
And it's
That
led
Dave
to,
that led to that, right?
I'm just happy that people started to hear and they started to get help. And maybe that suicidal ideation has dropped a little because people know they're not monsters, they're not crazy, they're
Yeah.
not assholes. They're suffering from quinism or mefloquine poisoning, and there's ways to get around that
Yeah.
and to mitigate it, at least till you can have a decent life.
Yeah. And to take steps to make yourself so you're not going to be in a unsafe position,
Yes.
say, right?
Yes.
If we know that we have suicidal ideation, we know we have these problems, then we take steps in order to protect ourselves, right? That say, well, it's an anniversary of this, so we don't want to leave you alone.
Right.
Or it's, get out and get for a walk. Push yourself to try to get exercise and try to, to just bring it down, right?
Yeah.
But
And in that moment, that's when it's really hard to think like, I got to bring this down, but you got to try to find, you do now. It's just repetitive training and teaching yourself, and stop shaming and blaming yourself, and know that, yep, this is the drug doing this to me right now. And I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to phone someone. I'm going to do something. It's like alcoholics need a coach, right? We all need something. It might be overeating. It might be all kinds of things, but mefloquine's a little tougher because it's not just speak therapy. It's actual damage, right? Poisoning damage. But again, I can't stress enough that people don't have to live like that. There are lots of ways to help you. And if you haven't heard the ways, then you need to get a hold of us. Me, Dave Bona, all the people out there, Katrina, look for our pages. You can find, you find help.
So we want to put all those two together so people can see them and find all the pages. So to gather and send people in a direction or whatever. Yeah. So
spread the word, people. If you've heard this today or you hear something down the road, you save lives by just speaking about it. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Just saying it. And if you don't think one voice makes a difference, then look at mine. I didn't think it did either. But here we are today, 32 years later, and I can say Mefloquine and people know what I'm talking about. They know there's more sides to this story than the original. It's, I don't feel shame anymore of myself.
To think that when you started talking about it, you didn't even know about it, right? You didn't even know what was going on with your husband. You didn't have a clue. And now, then you educated yourself on it, if you would.
Yeah.
Now you're educating others, and you've created an army.
I like that. We are an army now. We're a movement, and we're global. And I always say it: knowing your enemy is half the battle.
Yep.
You need to know your enemy.
Yep.
And Mefloquine is ours. So
yep.
We overstep that by knowing more about it and knowing how to mitigate it and taking control.
Yep.
And it's all about control. So
that's what that is.
Yeah. Yep. They controlled us once. They don't control the narrative now. And that's the thing, that all the stories that have been told and all of the media stories that have been told, we can now challenge all that narrative with fact.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And, they threw out their fucking videos, and I swear to describe it better.
Right.
But to say, they threw out all their garbage saying, oh, that guy was an asshole, this was that. They were doing all their finger pointing.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's reversed,
and
the fingers are being pointed at the people that actually deserve to be pointed at, right?
Finally.
The people that are at fault.
Yeah.
The people that forced this drug upon us, the people that made it, the people that kept pushing it out even though they knew the damage it was doing.
How do you live with yourself for that?
Oh.
Like, how do they live with themselves?
No, I'm
I've
trying
often
to remember.
thought of that. If I had the chance to make money,
to have blood on your hands,
to have
like
all that
right?
blood and the cost,
to destroy families upon families,
not just the soldier, the family.
Yep.
And the fallout from that is incredible.
To make money.
Yep, just to make money or to
push a narrative.
Yeah.
Whatever they were doing, right?
I know Hoffman and LaRoche is trying to come out shiny on this because D&D needs to not blame them in a sense for the courts.
Yeah.
But I blame Hoffman and LaRoche completely. From day one, I always have. They know what this drug does, and they continue to make it.
They knew what the effects were.
Exactly.
Right from the start,
and if I tell you, well, I don't want to give you this pill, Mike, because I know it does this, but you say you're going to take it anyway, you're going to give it to your kid, let's say, or you're going to give it to your friend, but you know what it does. That's exactly what happened. D&D told, apparently, or Hoffman and LaRoche told D&D that it's a trial drug, it does these, it has this symptoms. That's what they're saying. Then why in God's creation would you push it or even offer it? Burn the recipe.
And continue to push it.
And continue. Right? So Jonathan Keystone would come out and say, this drug is absolutely safe. What she's saying is just anger. And
they were just coming up with all their counter narrative bullshit, garbage, lies.
I wasn't wise enough.
All lies.
Yeah, and I wasn't wise enough then. And like you say, going out and educating yourself, I wasn't wise enough to get on and say, no, this is what it does. We learned a lot of that over time, right?
Yep.
But
almost as it developed.
Yeah, and then he died. I could never go and actually have it out with him. But
Keystone or whatever you said.
Yeah.
Any other key? Pardon the pun. Any other key players or other key people that you think were pushing or fighting or pushing out the narrative?
Well, it was like right from the media, depending on who they talked to. If they talked to D&D or they talked to Hoffman and LaRoche, it was just all hogwash on my part. I honestly can't say that I hold any bigger grudge against anybody except D&D, Hoffman and LaRoche, and that Keystone, because I never did get to actually explain to yourself how you can carry on and knowingly tell people that I'm a fool and you know what this does, and you made it sound like it's still okay to take it on TV, on the mainstream media, and people fell for it because he's a doctor and I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just easier for D&D to keep blaming you guys instead of the drug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they were assholes, right?
Yes.
But they put us. We're at the tip of the spear, highly trained
The
soldiers,
most elite.
most elite. And one of the questions I kind of have for myself is, why did they send all these elite troops to Somalia when maybe there was one or two food convoys we might have escorted, and that was it?
I said it back in the 90s that they set pit bulls to do a poodle's job and amped up the aggression. For what reason, I don't know. I don't understand what their the process was. But you know, you don't send in an elite airborne platoons after platoons if you don't intend to have war.
Yeah.
They don't go there to hand out medication. That's not what they do. It's a peacekeeping mission, but it wasn't over there.
Yep.
It was a peacemaking.
So we went there, if you would. We were going there under the guise of peacekeeping.
Making.
Right. We
Do
were
you
going,
not remember that?
No. We were going there
yeah.
as peacekeepers,
Yeah.
right? White vehicles,
peace.
all this.
Yeah.
And then on CNN, you had the Navy SEALs going ashore in Mogadishu, and now the mission was peacemaking.
Yeah. What does that tell you?
So what do you mean CNN was there to go ashore when the SEALs were there? Why were they? How did they know that was going on?
Yeah.
Was that staged?
Yeah.
Was that for a purpose? Was the purpose to say we're going there for peacekeeping and then switch the mission to peacemaking and rattle the troops? Was changing the ROEs, the rules of engagement, every day made to confuse soldiers to maybe create problems?
When you say those were changed, those ROEs every day, was that by the people who were in Somalia that were looking after you? Because they were likely impaired as well.
No,
right?
that's my
your point.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I
the
get.
point.
Okay, that's
and that's the point. Even to say, so that's one of the questions I have, is to say, who was actually making the rules of engagement? Was that a policy that was determined in Canada? And if it was determined in Canada, then why was every day the ROE changing?
Yeah.
And if it was the CO changing it every day, changing it to whatever, to shooting between the flip-flops and the skirt, all of those things, all, to me, if it's the CO making those distinctions, that's showing that he's having problems with his command, that he's having problems making decisions, that he's affected by a drug.
Exactly.
Right.
You had no one that was not. I mean, there were very few people who weren't being meffed, and there were very few people who even had the cognitive ability to be running a platoon, let alone your tanks and your guns, which it says you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
You don't drive a motor vehicle. You certainly wouldn't have a live round in your hand if you're going to be taking Mefloquine. It's just not done. And they did everything wrong and gave that drug out in the most insane fashion. Willy-nilly.
No control group. None. To make sure that everybody's reacting.
Messed up the leaders as well. Straight up the chain right to the Lieutenant Colonel Matchee. General Dallaire, he was also given meth. Like, so who was sane enough to run the show? Yeah. Right?
So just to use an example, right, is the massacre at My Lai in Vietnam, right? Was a massacre where they went in and were killing all the civilians. Nobody was stopping it. It was a U.S. military unit doing it. The only person that tried to stop it was a helicopter pilot flying overhead that seen what was going on, landed and tried to stop them, and instead they went after him and were trying to blackball him and
so what does that tell you?
Nail him to the coffin.
What
right?
does that tell you? They were all out of control.
Yeah.
Why? And why is it that the pilot wasn't? Because for the same reasons in Somalia, they never gave pilots that drug.
They weren't supposed to. Yeah.
No, because they knew
It caused vestibular disturbances.
you can't fly a plane like that. So why is the only person trying to stop that thing a pilot? Because the rest were probably
That's a
given
good example.
something,
Yeah.
right?
But that's completely to say that the people on the ground that were doing all this. So if everybody's on the drug and everybody thinks what's going on is normal,
Yeah.
right? And the guy flying overhead that didn't take the
Can
drug is
see.
looking down and saying something's wrong,
Yeah.
and stops and tries to tell him. So then you take the airborne regiment and you put them in Malay, and you watch all this shit go on. If everybody's on the drug, nobody's stopping it. Nobody.
Exactly.
So that could have been the exact same kind of scenario playing out in Somalia as played out in Malay.
Absolutely. And D&D was foolish to not have some sort of a control group in that whole mess. And I know that when the day that they were given that drug, like Manic Monday and Psycho Tuesday and all those, that was the day that all that shit happened, was the day they were given the drug. No one was in control, not from lieutenant colonel to the bottom. No one was in control.
And that almost should have been bing bang boom,
Yeah.
alarm bells going off. We just had this happen. We're taking a drug.
Yeah.
That
An experimental
drug that we're taking that nobody knows
exactly
what the full effects are, and now we had an incident, but instead of pointing it to the drug, they pointed it to the person.
Exactly. And most medics knew that something was going wrong. They tried to say this drug that, they're not doing well on this drug, and people were going to their medics, drink more water, get more sleep, you're all right, you'll be okay. But you weren't.
Man, and to say, I think Rob from the Fifth Estate, Rob Prouse.
Yes.
Right? So that he was smart enough to actually look and say, we shouldn't be taking this drug.
No.
This drug doesn't look safe.
No.
Right? Like, kudos to him, man. Like,
yeah.
What, and maybe then that's why it was buried so quick.
It was.
Right?
There was another story done with a guy that W5 story. He was a captain. He's holding the pills, and he's saying this is what happened in Somalia. That's when they buried that story real quick. I do have pieces of that story somewhere.
What we should almost do is try to build a thing, because say some of the stories I don't remember, and then because we could be digging up more stories, and the more stories you build up creates more of
and it just shows
record
how
of events.
long we've been saying it, that people were trying to say it, not just me. I want to say 5-7 years after I started yapping, now those things started to come out, but they quickly got buried. I'd be excited and be gone, and yeah, any story that I did was quickly buried. You can't even find my documentaries half the time. They're archived in the farthest back room, I think, somewhere, but yeah.
In a place where they forgot they put it, and only somebody found it, so then they find another place to hide it, right?
Exactly. That's well hidden.
Yep. Yeah. And just to touch, because there's a lot of, conspiracy theories, a lot of thoughts, a lot of strange occurrences that happened in Somalia.
Mm-hmm.
And even to say, like, so who like, for Clayton, what, they said that he hung himself.
Mm-hmm.
And who found him?
Apparently it was 2 Americans who found him. They heard him, and they went down in there and they tried to resuscitate him, cut him loose from his string.
And
the military told me in the beginning, when this happened, that he hung himself with his bootlaces. The medic who took him out and took care of him made sure I knew he's unlaced his boots for him. His bootlaces were in there. Clayton's hanging mark is still on him. He's 6'4", he had a long neck and a big Adam's apple, and that is a paracord. It's the size of a paracord, and it goes right in half of his Adam's apple. As a young person, I seen someone hung, and that's not how people hang. And they told me, well, Marge, if he really wanted to die, he could have went forward. it took me a long time to even maybe accept the idea that he could have done it. But knowing what Mefloquine does and the suicidal ideation it causes, it may have been, did he realize what he done, or that what happened, and he was like, couldn't take it, or was it just one of those bouts? I don't know, and I still don't know. My heart doesn't fully believe either way. I don't know whether he did it to himself. I can't tell you I 100% believe that.
But you also said that he was very much against it.
He was.
That it was a coward's
We
way
lost,
out. That
yeah,
it
like I
was,
said, we've lost, we grew up in the same town, and there was someone just before Somalia who had committed suicide. Now it evades me. He would not go and see the family. He would not go, and he was just mad. It's a chicken shit way out. Be a man and take it. So him just saying all those again, even as a kid, we lost friends, and he was just, that's just, look what he's done to the family. That's a chicken shit way out. He always said that.
yeah.
And so then I'm having to accept the fact that he committed suicide. So rightfully, I doubt it.
Yep.
I have my doubts. But then I learned enough about Mefloquine. Look at
To
you
then,
sitting
yeah.
here telling me how
Yeah.
often you have to fight it. And
Yeah.
I've heard it from everyone.
Yeah.
So it could have. I say
Yeah.
that now. It could be that way.
Yeah. But once again, the drug changed us so that
Yeah.
we're not even the same person.
No.
So the person that talked to you before October of 1992 was not the same person that you talked to after October
No.
92.
No, in March of 93 was the last time I talked to him.
Yeah.
Just when so the 16th, he called me that day, probably. That the time frame's crazy, but he called me that. So, it took a doctor. I never do. I don't say that very often, but that 5-minute phone call a day when he was hung and he was dying. Now they would, he had pneumonia in the middle of the night. I have bad time with my memories from it. I lost a lot, but in the middle of the night, I remember the phone ringing, and I picked it up, and this man said, "Mrs. Matchee," and I said, "Yes." Then he said, "I'm Doctor somebody, I couldn't remember, from Mogadishu Hospital." So he was literally calling me from Mogadishu Hospital. And he said, "I think you need to know the truth. I think you need to know that I'm taking care of Clayton. And if he survives, will be one thing. But if he does, he's going to be a vegetable," he told me. I sat in that room till the sun came up, just trying to get my head around that, So that was huge. I still am glad that doctor called me, because he actually told me what I needed to hear, where everyone else was just dancing around the issue because they didn't want to tell me.
They didn't want to tell you, so they
No.
didn't want to give you the truth, and they didn't want to tell you exactly how it was, because that's really what you needed to hear.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
In
and
order
as
to
hard
wrap
as
your head
that
around
was,
it, right?
he moved me forward, and he started to make me think, what the heck happened and why, and he wasn't healthy when he left, and this drug did, crazy things to me before he left. So it just started to make sense to me that that's what happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He called you after, like, the day.
About 3 days. I want to say it's about 3 days after the Padre.
Yeah, but like Clayton, when did you talk? The last time you talked to him, like in Somalia,
It was
he
the
called
day
you,
that
it all kind of started.
Because he said to me, "Babe, we roughed up this," so it already happened, and he told me a couple hours later they come and got me that my prisoner died.
Yeah,
then that was it. They were cut off.
The conversation just ended. The phone went dead.
They cut him.
They
off.
cut it off,
Yeah.
right? When he said that.
Yeah, because we just started talking, and you have 5 minutes, right?
Yep.
And all he got to say to me was exactly what I told you, "Babe, we got in some shit here last night." Me going, "What?" "Well, we were ordered to rough up a prisoner, but we roughed him up pretty good," he said. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, a couple hours later, they come and got me and told me my prisoner had died." That was it. That's the last conversation I ever had with Clayton.
And the phone went dead. And
Yeah.
then after that, he was not the same man.
No, then after that, I had the Padre the next day.
Calling you to say what happened.
He come to my school.
And then did he
collar.
tell you that it was the Americans that found him, or did he just said?
I never found that out till a lot time later. They didn't know anything. I didn't get any information. They didn't know anything. They just told me he was responsible for killing a soldier, and a Somali prisoner, and that he was found hanging in his cell. That was it.
And then you found out later that it was the Americans that cut him down and tried to
it took a
resuscitate him?
medic under, they were all on gag order, but
Yeah.
I people came and told me what happened. And I also knew that Lieutenant Colonel Matchee was standing right there the whole time this was happening, because I got told that too.
He was standing there the whole time that what?
Prisoner was getting beat.
He was standing there.
That's what I was told by someone there.
Yeah. Huh.
So it was really hard for me to have him come walk in that Indian, what is it, NDMC?
Yep.
And charge him 3 times in a row, and
For
watching
something he was
him,
probably just
and
as
he
guilty
was
of.
so, his thoughts and the way he talked were beyond even they were just nuts. Like he even made no sense. Clayton, no.
But as much as then we can say, people are examining Clayton the way he was, you could be examining Colonel Matchee for the same reason and saying,
there lies
signs,
my
right?
learning, I guess, or healing, because I had a pure on hatred for that man. But it took others like Dave and others and say to me, he was on it too. He was just as damaged. And so there was a forgiveness in me for that after. But it needs to be said, this is how it went. I'm not going to make up a story, and I'm not going to cover for anybody, because everyone's got to answer for what they've done. And yes, he may have been impaired, so admit it. Tell the truth. Tell what happened there.
Yeah.
That's all we want.
Yep. So many things went on, and were half buried for the reason that they didn't want it to come out.
Yeah.
Right.
No. They tried
for their
damage
reasons,
control
right?
for a long time. Yeah.
Not to save people, not to keep this from happening again, just so that they weren't found out for what they did.
Hoffman and LaRoche started to collect Azilarium. D&D got to carry on to Rwanda, Afghanistan on a cheap malaria drug. If you were really that sorry about Somalia, why the hell would you turn around and do it to them in Rwanda and Afghanistan again?
Yeah.
How? I don't understand. The fallout from Somalia should have been enough. It should have ended there. But it didn't. They were able to blame it on...
They didn't get the results they wanted from Somalia.
But they were able to blame it on 2 people and walk away.
Yeah. And then keep pushing it out, trying to perfect the drug, maybe.
Keep convincing everyone your problems are PTSD.
Yeah. It's this. It's this.
It's
not
never
that.
the truth.
Yeah.
But we know the truth.
Yep. And the Americans that were in our camp. So I was in the same camp as the Americans. I was over in call sign 0, where the CO was, and then it was American Delta Force that was in our camp, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So why is it them finding our Canadian prisoner, right? And why is it not
by.
Why is it not our fucking guard?
Exactly.
Where was our guard?
Where was the guard?
Yep.
That's what I'd like to know.
Yep. No, me too.
There were so many things I want to know the answer to, and when I tried, then it was like, just shut her up. But I'm happy they couldn't, and I'm happy that there's hundreds and thousands of other people now. So you can't just shut me up anymore and make it go away. You can't make it go away,
because they have thousands of other stories, and like the one we're talking about now.
Yeah. And everybody's telling it at the same time now. And everybody's connecting the dots. And these guys got, like I said, they need to wipe the egg off their face, admit what they've done, and fix this fallout that each year gets worse and worse and worse. Because the longer it goes by, the more health issues become. If veterans wouldn't have worked together to solve some of this, we'd have lost a lot more people.
Yep.
But they're healing. Veterans are healing veterans.
And it's thank God for the people that got injured right at the start, that knew that they had a problem, as opposed to somebody that took 25 years to find out they had all these issues, and now they're trying to get help, right? It's the people that had the problem right away, trying to say, right?
I think most people just hope that their PTSD symptoms would fade and that they would get better. But that didn't happen, and we know why. Because it was not just PTSD. You're fighting quinism or mefloquine poisoning, right?
Yeah.
And then turning around and making it worse by
Taking
handing
an
out drugs like
antidepressant.
candy
Yeah.
that you can't have with them. We didn't know that in the beginning either, but we definitely know it now, right? Those are the things that are saving lives.
But not everybody knows that either,
No,
no.
but that's
right?
why
So
we got to yell it, and I say
there
it
can
every
be people
time
that
again.
took mefloquine that are
Still-
taking antidepressants that don't know.
Still are.
Yeah.
They still are.
And then they're at that much more risk. And if they try to come off it, or they try to switch them to another drug that doesn't work as well,
Yeah.
then they'll have that problem.
I think sometimes just the epiphany of learning that, oh my God, there really is something wrong with me. It has a name. It's quinism. And I don't need to be on these drugs that are debilitating me, but you need to come off them in a clinical fashion. You got lucky. I know some who didn't. And once you do that, then you're on your road to healing. And it's all about a clean life, eating right. Don't drink, because as much as you want to, that's one of the worst things you can do as well. Alcohol amps up all the symptoms. So, knowing that, half the battle is done. Your life changes dramatically just off that.
Yeah. It's funny even to, maybe not funny, but I mean, like I used to be a big drinker. I was
that's the army way.
I was Sensei Rude, the Grand Master of the most ancient and noble art of Taiwan. Right? But now,
that's the first,
right?
However,
So I was all into that, and that's all that. But now, in my healing, like I don't drink at all anymore. No. I might have a pint or something with at the pub.
Hey? Yeah.
Once, like at a restaurant.
Yeah.
I don't buy beer to bring home.
No.
Because I would only want to drink one anyways, and
exactly.
And even
I'm celiac.
So
that's like me buying a donut and staring at it. Like, I can't eat it. You can't have it. It just has to become part of everyday life.
Yep. So you gotta. So you and there lies one of the problems in that, say, alcohol becomes a way to cope with your problems, whether it's your insomnia, whether it's your nightmares,
just remembering everything,
right?
Yeah.
There's times I do remember saying, I got to get drunk I got to shut my mind off. I got to shut my mind off.
And lots of
drink
you say
and
that.
drink and drink and drink, right? And then once you're in that method of healing yourself, which is not healing yourself,
you're gone down the rabbit hole.
You're getting worse, and then to be able to come off of that, to actually go to something that works, right, is next to impossible. And then you watch your friends struggle, right? And then some don't make it, right?
No, and you and I know that.
Yep.
But, and not to minimize that, I think we're saving more now than we're losing. And I just hope that stays on track.
I would say more people are learning than
how to get through those bad times, those dark hours, those dark days. And, I just, again, don't do it alone. Just, there's so many out here now. Reach out, find some help. There's always someone that's going to listen now.
Yep.
And you don't have to explain. They've been here. We understand. Just reach out, know?
Yep.
No matter what you've done, then, it just doesn't matter. If you cannot control your mefloquine rages or suicidal ideation or insomnia or gut problems, there's ways. Now, you may not be perfect, but I'm telling you, it's a lot better.
Yeah, you're going to have more of a quality of life than if you continue to go on and not do anything about
and you can actually be happy.
Healing. Yep.
And you deserve that.
There.
Everybody deserves that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I also think that that some of the symptoms do get worse over time.
Oh yeah.
And I do, and then say in my own thought that eventually it'll get me, right? That's my because you can do so well,
Yeah.
and then you have that
Those
series of
dark
events
times,
that just
yes. But
tanks you.
remember the warrior you are.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to remember the warrior you are, the things you've done, where you've been, the people that count on you. I want people like that in their dark hours to know that, okay, I'm having a dark time, but it's okay. So I'm going to get somebody to help me through this. Reach out. Don't fight that dark time by yourself, right? And everybody knows what you're talking about because they've been there, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to have to explain yourself or go into any deep things. It's just reach out. I need help, and we're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And you know what they're like, but you also know to reach out. Like you said, I got my phone. My phone's my last resource, right?
Yeah.
Everybody needs that. They need to have that set up in the good times so when the bad times hit, you can mitigate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
The more
if
you
you
can
think you're going to dump a bunch of pills down your throat, then don't have pills in your cabinet.
Yeah.
It's like that. Don't put a loaded gun in if that's your method of thinking. Don't. I'm just saying, mitigate those things in the good times so that you're ready
so
when
that
the bad
when
times.
the bad times hit,
you've
already mitigated some of those,
Yes.
so the options aren't there, or the options will take you too much time.
Yes.
By that time, you'll be out of the.
And time is of the essence in those dark
You
times,
have to have
right? You need to have that out, that release, that place to go. So having those ready when you're in a good frame of mind and think what it's like when you're in the bad ones. What would help me? So when you're in a good frame of mind, think about where you were. What could I have done at that time? What would have helped me at that time? And make sure it's the push the button or whatever it takes, because as fast as those come on, they can change too.
Yep.
You just got to get through.
Oh yeah, no, exactly right.
Right?
Because as
gotta
quick
get
as
through
quick
it.
as it went on,
Yes,
as quick as it can leave.
exactly what I'm saying.
But
they're so
it's,
intense and debilitating.
you just got to get through that.
Yes.
You got to get through the earthquake or
the sinking of your ship and bring it back up.
Yeah.
And don't feel bad about that. That's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not a sign of weakness. You cannot control it, even if you were the toughest man on earth. Or woman. You can't control that. That's part of the health issues that come with it, right?
Yep.
So knowing that up front, admitting it to yourself, having those steps in place, a coach, a phone, whatever it takes, right? Your dogs, sometimes it just takes that. So try to do that, you know? And I know that might sound minimal, but it really is huge at the time.
Yep.
Like you said it yourself.
Yep. Just be the little things sometimes that can just break you out, or you have to hold on for as long as you can, because it will pass.
It will.
Right?
And like we said, it comes on like that. It can leave like that. You can get through this thing. It's just hold on and have a plan.
Yep.
Yeah. I know that's easy for me to say, but it's not. I'm not Mefloquine poison, but it's not, because I've sat and talked to thousands of people, and your symptoms are as if I could just tell the same story, just put a different name on it.
Yeah,
so you know do you know what I mean? And so
when
knowing
everybody's symptoms are the same,
exactly the same. Quite often they're exactly the same. And so I've learned that I can say that to you, that I know they come on fast and they can leave fast. And it's mitigating that in between, having that plan,
Yep, I agree. Did you know that that the military, or that the other contingents that were in Somalia, that they actually had a kill count?
Yeah. And those other contingents weren't on Mefloquine, as far as I understand, too.
No, I think a lot of them were.
Oh, you mean with the kill count being
in
their
Somalia.
kill count? Oh, gotcha. I got you. Yes.
That there was a kill count, apparently, and then when Canada got on the kill count, that the CO got a standing ovation.
Wow.
From the other contingents. So my question, once again, because we were already talking about this, was then what were we actually in Somalia for?
Yeah.
were we there testing a drug to see if the drug would actually make us do what it was meant to do? Or I really don't think we were, in all hindsight, I really don't think we were there on a humanitarian mission, because then it became peacemaking, and it wasn't. I seen a picture, so I shared a picture the other day of a relief convoy of food.
Yeah.
that probably only happened a few times.
You guys made fresh water and you got some food.
Yeah.
Got to help the hospital or two. A regular other contingency could have done that. Why send the tip
regular
of the spear?
troops?
Regular troops. Why send your elite force in?
Yeah.
They sent pit bulls to do a poodle's job. I say it all the time. And then they didn't want you to do that job. What were you there for? What were you there for?
You would want to send your best assets in to do a job.
Yeah.
So then, for instance, maybe you'd send the DART team in, the Disaster and Assistance Response Team, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you send the DART team in? No. You sent your war fighters in, your tip of the spear, your special forces, you sent them in to do a job of humanitarian aid.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
So what was the real true mission there?
Yep.
I know that a plane full of generals from the States landed in Petawawa when I lived there. It was the chatter. We seen it. And then that's when all of a sudden Mefloquine was on the table and they were gone. Huh. So I don't know what happened there either, but it was like, no, it's an experimental drug. We can't. And all of a sudden it was okay. And Health Canada was going to do a trial, and none of that ever came to light. It was just a joke.
And then the lady in charge of Health Canada resigns.
Yeah.
Over the drug, and nothing is even said.
No. I spoke with her a few times,
Oh, no way.
Yeah, she actually reached out to me. I've reached out to her, and really and truly, she just wants to be left alone now. It took a lot out of her.
Oh, I can't imagine,
did many people.
Yeah.
It took a lot out of me, but I can't stay quiet. This is my way of fixing things. This fixes me as much as I hope I fix others, right? It's just, I couldn't stay quiet for trying.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. It's, thank God you didn't, right? And you think about her, right, in a position that she was in, and they weren't even listening to her.
They wouldn't listen to her either.
And right. So you're not listening to her. You have all these incidents happen that on the night of the drug, all these things play out, and
no real clear mission.
Don't look at what's happening here. Look over here.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. You're going for humanitarian aid, but you're sending in your fucking war fighters, the guys that want to go in and get the job done, fight, and get out. The
guys you send in to get the job done.
Yeah.
To be deployed anywhere in the world in 72 hours to take control.
Yeah.
Not as a peacekeeping unit. That's regular troops.
Not to go in and bring food to the starving or anything like that. Our job is to go in with extreme violence.
Exactly.
Take out the objective, hold it until other troops come in and
so it's interesting that you would want to amp up the aggression on those people. It's interesting to me that you would want to waste that kind of manpower. Let's looking at it like manpower, take the humanity out of it. Why would you go and wreck your strongest players? It does not make sense to me.
Why?
Because they do it without question.
So like in Somalia, we had German Fallschirmjägers come in later to replace us, right? In Germany, Mefloquine is now banned.
Banned.
For
a long time.
Yeah. So
everyone on our flag is banned except Canada. And that's 9 countries, including Australia. They still try to revive that, but that, all of that is done. That's not me snoring, folks. That's Spark. Let her snore.
Pados. Just waking you up so we can talk.
We're boring her to death there.
Yeah. Yeah, so there was Italian Folgori there, the Italian paratroopers. Yeah. 10th Mountain. The Australians were there. Yeah. I'm not sure what Australian unit it was, but there was rumors about them, like
Well, they got it bad too.
they were taking it. I would
They got
imagine.
given tafenoquine and then mefloquine, and tafenoquine's the big bad brother of mefloquine. All those should be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I mean Australia, Stuart McCarthy,
Yep.
and those guys, they have been powerful advocates. They're working on a Royal Commission of Inquiries right now, which I believe we need. It's
Yep.
very hard to do in Canada, harder than anywhere else, it seems. But I would like to see a Royal Commission of Inquiries, not just on mefloquine, but in all handlings of military safety and health issues, deployments. There should be a look at things. There's other things, but I mean, mefloquine was the big one, right? And
Yep.
that's the one that 32 years later, we're still talking about.
Yeah.
Still working at getting it fixed.
32 years later, and the story is not even close to being told.
No. It'll be 32 years for me in December. It'll be 31 for mostly everyone after deployment in March and December.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sad and shocking.
It is.
Right? That so many incidents could happen, and they bury it and kept it going along.
What other situation would you let this kind of thing go on and on and on? Why? Because they can't admit they're wrong. Because if they admit they're wrong, again, they got to admit to an illegal drug trial, an illegal forced drug trial. They have to own up to all the suicides that happened after, the people's health issues that continue to this day. They won't.
They destroyed generations of soldiers
and families.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They did. I mean, people heal enough to get by later, but those scars don't go away.
Yeah. And
we
even
all wear ours. So,
yeah. And even to say, right? So the government of Canada says that you can't drink, or by province then, right? You can't drink until you're 19 years old because it's not safe for you.
Mm-hmm.
But at 16, you can sign up and join the reserves, and technically you can go overseas and give your life for your country.
Yeah.
But you're not, listen, you shouldn't drink because you don't know what you don't know what's good for you.
But take this pill.
But you can take your pill. You can go fight for our country at 16 and die for us, and we don't give a shit, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't.
No, they don't.
They don't, because then they can say, well, at 19, you're not allowed to drink. But yet I went and I served my country and fought overseas for this country.
Yeah.
And you're telling, the reason I wasn't drinking is because you're not saying it's not safe for me. But you're saying sign up and go fight and die for our country.
Yeah, and let me do an experimental drug trial on you.
Yep.
That's safe.
And they don't care.
They don't care.
Because they don't care. If they don't care about your health, they don't care if you go overseas and die for our country.
Number.
But don't go and drink at 19.
Yeah.
Right? Because you know what's good for us. The same
lies
way.
The issue with joining an army. You literally join another government. You do not belong to society anymore. You belong to them. You do what they say. Or you get court-martialed. Where would that be allowed? We'd all be yelling at the rooftops, that's my right to not do that. But you don't have any when you're in there. 16, 40, you're still under the rule, right? So what better place to have guinea pigs?
Yeah.
You just do it because I told you to. And you just shut up because I told you to.
And then, it was fought with the anthrax vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
The guy refused it, got kicked out of the army, fought it, won, got brought back into the military. The government never appealed that, right? The military never appealed his getting off of that,
right,
or getting hired back. Because I talked to an AJAG officer like during the COVID mandate thing, and he was saying that had the government challenged the anthrax decision, that the government would have lost, and the army would have been known that no, you don't have to take any drug you don't want to.
So herein lies my concern with the lawsuit. Are they just going to pay everybody out quietly? Is in that way that it's done? They don't have to admit to an actual, this worries me. I want everybody to be compensated. Don't get me wrong. But I want the truth to come out. I don't want that lawsuit to just make you shut up and take your money. This needs to be shouted from the rooftop so it doesn't happen again. And our guys should be able to shout it from the rooftops and be compensated and apologize to and their families, because this is dead wrong. And this is a first world country. We should not have you should have the right to live it how you want. And giving your service to the government should not mean being poisoned in the process because they need to do some drug trials.
Yeah.
Because I've got an audience that will listen in and do whatever we say, right?
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And
they do it again.
And they do it again and again. Because
say you can look at during World War II, they interned thousands of Japanese.
Yes.
Put them to work making the railroad, right? So I was just
Chinese.
I went through Jasper. I went to Mount Robson, and they had a sign up that said 20 or over 270,000 work days. These Japanese were put to work building the railroad, the gap between Jasper and Blue River.
It's sad,
right?
Yeah.
So and then they did that, and then they did the say during the FLQ crisis, did that again, and then were said, no, we shouldn't have done that. Then they did it during COVID, right? They refused. They're still refusing some services to people, right? Yeah. And right, and they're just repeating history.
Yeah. True, and history does repeat itself, and that's sad.
And then what they do is they delete that from the history books, and then it'll just happen again.
We would have been deleted from the history books. This would have just read the way they wanted it to.
Yep.
2 guys went off the rails and tortured somebody. Oops, and that's that. And so now we have to disband the airborne because they're all out of control.
Yeah.
And that would have been that. Except not everybody stayed quiet, and I wouldn't shut up. And now there's so many people you can't deny it.
Yep.
So here we are today.
And I don't think it's going anywhere where the government wants it to go.
No, I agree. I don't think it is either.
Yep, it's coming.
I think they truly thought they had this locked down when they could,
Because it's in my opinion, it's too big of a story.
Yeah.
To hide and bury and keep hidden. Right? That eventually, and as time wears on, people need to heal.
Yeah, they do.
People need to let go. People need to release.
Be heard.
And say, no, that was wrong. This is what happened.
Yeah, that's
and
why.
That's where we are right now.
Yeah, and that's why I say the blaming stops now, and has for a long time. The blame and shame lies on D&D, Hoffman and LaRoche.
Yeah.
Not us, not me, not my family, not you, not any soldier who was poisoned.
Your family had nothing to do with it until they fucking gave a drug.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And how I was ever responsible for anything. Why threaten me? Why threaten our child? What did that solve except to shut me up? And I know exactly who that was. And it didn't work. I didn't shut up.
Yep.
I just couldn't.
And thank God for that, Marj. Right?
I don't know. It was scary, but sometimes I don't know what pushed me so hard, but just because I just can't have my children's legacy be a lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It some of it's truth, sure. I'll accept any truth you hand me, but I need to have it told properly. I need to have his legacy, the truth. Yeah. And we need to start fixing everybody else as much as we can, and that's just what I'm going to do till I can't do it anymore, until this really gets a handle on it.
Yep. I think it's going to, it's not about what the soldiers did.
No,
it's about what the drug made the soldiers do,
and it's about an illegal forced drug trial that you forced on them soldiers that changed them to be whatever what did you think was going to happen? And when you saw it start, why wouldn't you have stopped? If you have to cage guys up for a day because they're so out of control from the medication you give them, why wouldn't you have stopped?
Yep. When you're doing a drug trial,
When you're doing a
right?
supposed drug
It's
trial.
a drug trial.
They
and you're
never
supposed
gleaned
to.
one bit of information from that. They just carried on already like it was already done. None of you signed those consent forms. I looked for those consent forms. I asked, and there were never, we put them on the spot, and they cannot produce the consent forms at all.
Yep.
At the standing committee, it was asked for. They could not produce them. And then they finally said no one signed one.
Yep.
You were just ordered to take it.
So, was it a drug trial?
No. It was an experiment.
Yep.
And it was just to see what you could make human beings become.
Yep.
And how that benefited them, you know, in the long run. Like, does it, you know?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Let's just take the hard asses and see how aggressive we really can make them. And then we got super soldiers, right? I believe that's what that was all about. Let's make super soldiers because, again, why send you guys where they sent you doing what you did under
so these are people trained to kill with extreme violence or to fucking seize a position and hold it until more troops come.
Absolutely.
To be able to face any foe and come out on top. Right?
Yeah.
And now you're sending them to be humanitarian
you took
workers.
The ones in your military that are trained in every aspect of the military and you wasted them. You have regular troops. I'm not downsizing that at all, but regular troops do regular troop stuff. Yep. Airbornes drop out of airplanes. They'd be set down in 72 hours to, if it takes violence, take over some. This is what you were trained to do. Yep. It wasn't this humanitarian mission. It was an experiment.
So, I mean, you can look at, do they send JTF2 to go do peacekeeping operations? They'll have some there during peacekeeping operations as monitors more
or
so.
If needed.
But they're not sending a unit,
no,
highly trained unit to go do mundane peacekeeping stuff.
Not just one unit either. What was there? 2, 3, and 1 commando?
They sent them all.
They sent them all?
To say they sent the very best of the Canadians, probably the very best of the Italians, of the Americans, of the British, of the Australians.
You know, and who?
And why are they all there? And it wasn't the coalition forces going to fight Saddam Hussein's, whatever guard, right?
Yeah.
They're elite of the elite troops. So you're going to send your elite troops. You're there for a humanitarian mission and you send all your hardened war fighters.
This is what no one
give
could
them
understand.
An experiment and give them a drug of which you're not even interested in the results of any of it.
They were interested in the results. They just weren't interested in the results we were supposed to glean from that.
Yeah.
They wanted to see how aggressive you'd become, and it worked.
Yep. I would say.
I would say too.
You know, we were like at we were at the Ethiopian border, or we had crossed or whatever, but there was, and the same thing, like you were saying, Clayton was getting all the candies to give to the kids, right?
Yeah.
And we're in this village and we're handing out all the candies from our ration packs to give to the kids.
Yeah.
And this one kid, say 8 years old, took the candy from like a 5 or 6 year old kid, right? So I'm like, give the candy back. And he's like, and he, gave me a face and did whatever.
Yeah.
So then I reached down and I grabbed my rifle out of the vehicle and I held it up and I went like this. And I just kind of like waved it, give the candy back, right? And then he gave the candy back because I'm like, you're not going to bully him.
Yeah.
But there I am holding the rifle.
You're bullying him.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, no, give the candy back. But, it's a candy.
Yeah.
And why am I,
So
like I pulled my
about
rifle out
Yeah.
shave it. No, you'll fucking give the candy back.
So see how aggressive you were to a child.
So what was that?
To a
right?
child.
Hmm.
You were just pure aggressive. You had no empathy. You had heightened aggression.
Yeah.
You guys were looking at each other as potential targets.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep.
There were.
Yep.
I've heard so many stories about how he'd be like, "Yeah, I should just take him before he gets me."
Yep. Which is
Because that was
crazy,
the mentality.
Right? Yep.
And that's insane.
Right. The airborne, because of Somalia, went into a like protect our own and fuck you, we're not saying nothing.
Yeah.
But enough to say now, to look back and say, my God, like people were like, guys were not themselves completely. And that's what should be talked about. Not necessarily the things that happened or that they did, but why were they acting all like this?
That's
and
why
the
they
only
need to
answer
put the
is
shame
the
and
drug.
the blame away. I keep saying that. Put that away now. Y'all shouldn't be packing that. I shouldn't be, and nobody should. D&D, Hoffman and LaRoche, the Americans that were the generals, those are the people that need to carry this shame and blame.
Yep.
Not any one of those soldiers. Nobody.
Yep.
I know that now. And for that, I forgive a lot of things. And I understand a lot of things. But I just cannot understand why this kept going and why the D&D kept handing that out. I understand pharmacies, big money, but we're talking about the cheapest drug on the market. How does that make money? Or did it save you money? No. All leads back to just there was a plan, and it was to see how it was an experiment.
Yep.
Plain and simple.
When the person in charge of Health Canada resigns because of the drug, then it's not a drug trial.
No.
Like you said, it's an experiment.
Because
they were doing a different experiment than
they told me that they didn't have to follow the drug trial because they got this was what I'm telling you before about John Cummins. He found the actual paperwork. So they were telling us at the time when all this happened that they did not have to follow the Health Canada drug trial, that they had acquired theirs through Australia. But again, I seen that piece of paper that was stamped. Delivery, Somalia, D&D, 1,000 units of Mefloquine from Health Canada's trial. They didn't get anything back and no one wrote a thing down. They just said, shut up, keep taking it, do your stuff, and then when shit hit the fan, we know why.
Because we're looking for an effect from this experiment. We're not looking to find a drug that helps fight malaria.
No.
We're actually looking for something that does something
result,
else.
that they were looking for,
Yeah.
Because if it was really that important, you would have gleaned all that information and you would have
right away.
said,
you would have
holy
shut it
shit,
down.
this is making my troops sick. We got to stop this.
Or you would have known that all the toxic effects that come from Mefloquine came with the drug before that,
Yes.
all from the quinine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you knew that, then why are you pushing it other than
you wanted
pushing
that
an
result.
experiment?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So today we just can do what we can to, make sure people understand that there's help.
Yep.
That you don't need to be ashamed of anything.
Yep.
If anyone can tell you that, it's me. Because I've lived with it.
You've gone through the whole, you've gone through the...
And I don't feel shame anymore at all. I'm not ashamed of Clayton.
None whatsoever.
No, I am proud of being vocal. I'm proud that we are a movement. It's helped me to heal. And healing others helps me to heal. It helps you. It helps many of us advocates. So we just need to keep pushing and push harder and harder. And we need to support this lawsuit this year. And if it takes next year. They're slow, but us being loud out there in the media and the mainstream will help to facilitate that to move forward.
Yep. Your family did nothing wrong. Your husband was a good soldier, was a tip of the spear, was a professional, right? And all that was taken away with the drug.
Mm-hmm.
And then tried to paint pictures of somebody that none of your family was.
My auntie pointed something out to me a couple times and I never thought much about it, but there's those horrible pictures out there of Clayton and Kyle with the prisoner. Then my auntie says, why is he not bloody? Why is he clean? And he is clean. And I don't understand that. But I look at that picture and I could see his eyes, and they're as whacked as I've ever seen him. Just not there. That ain't him. They're huge. And he's just whacked. If you look at those pictures and you look at him in the eyes, take a picture of him from before and look at that. It's not even the same human being.
Yeah. Yep.
No.
Because, even as you say, to say that it changed their DNA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I believe that.
Yeah.
It is a potent drug.
Yeah.
And it does nothing good for anyone.
Nope.
It just needs to go.
Yeah. It's a lot of, darkness that we're talking about and everything. But on a positive side, like, what in your life that you're most proud of? What are you
Other than my daughter and my grandchildren, I think this fight gives me some pride now because it's helped people. When I see someone come to me and say, my family understands I'm not an asshole. My family knows now it's okay, and to me that's the biggest win I could get, because we lost so much. We need to gain ground in the other end, right? And every time someone wins, I win. And to me, this rally that we're going to is also something I'm pretty proud of. It was born out of an anger fit because Trudeau treated Dave like crap. And I said, that's it. We're going to the Hill. If he can't talk to us there, then we're going to get in his face. And Dave said, I'm going too.
Yep.
And I remember sitting on the Hill that day and the day before, and he was sitting there. We're sitting on the steps, and I looked at him. I was like, what are we doing? Oh my God, Dave, what if we're the only ones here? And he said, Margie, if we're the only ones here, then we're the only ones here. He said,
Yeah.
And that was the logic we've stuck with. So,
Yep.
just can't knock it. You just got to keep moving forward, right?
Yep.
Don't get discouraged.
Yep.
So let's all hit Victoria and make a big bang this year.
Yeah.
I need everybody to come there. That would be so. And if you can't be there, then please flood Facebook.
Yeah.
Flood it all that day, the day
Flood it
before,
with
and the day
pictures.
after.
Yeah,
Talk about Mefloquine, because that will really push the word.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
And thanks so much for doing that and for starting it. Everything is just, it's all about, because there's no one road to success with this, right? It's many roads.
Yeah. We're
many
trying to
people.
Find it.
Yeah.
Even the path would be
and
good.
directing people on that path, right?
Yeah.
But, even to say the reason I'm still alive is because I started to see the symptoms or started to see the problems, and then trying to mitigate those problems in order to be here.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't know I had all those problems if it wasn't for the blue chart. And if it wasn't, if you hadn't started the fight, if you hadn't brought Dave into the fight, if you hadn't brought Sean Artson into the fight, right? You can honestly look and say that you've literally touched and saved thousands of lives because one life,
huge.
One life changed, say by changing Dave. He then goes on and changes how many?
Yeah.
Who then changed Sean, who goes on to change more, who changed me, who goes on to change more, right? So, it's like, the little chart of how it grew.
Yeah.
How did the army of Mefloquine grow? It started at Marj and it went out, right?
That's
to
huge.
be honest, right? Because you continue, you ignore the people calling you a tinfoil hat, you ignore because you follow what you know to be the truth in your heart. And now we're sitting here.
Yeah.
Right. And you have an army of people out there talking about Mefloquine. It's like it's like now it's creating avalanches, in my opinion. Like to say that a month ago that it was talked about on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Right. To say that all these people are going out and saying it. Tim Kennedy, MMA fighter, I think Navy SEAL, all that. he's been talking about Mefloquine, and I've commented on his where he talked about it, and all these people are.
It's amazing.
It's almost like it's really more people are seeing the elephant in the room,
Exactly.
right?
My one theme for the one rally was they thought we, or what was, sorry, no, I can't. They thought they could bury us. They didn't know we were seeds.
Yeah.
And I believe that. Like, they thought they could bury me, but they didn't know we were seeds.
Yeah. That's a very good analogy. Or a
I
very
seen
good
that,
way
read
of
that
putting
once,
it.
and it was like, oh, I love it. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds.
Yeah.
So we bloomed and we blossomed, and
And
there's so many more.
We grew. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. You just think back to 1993, and then think of you being all on your own, right? And fighting, and
Scared to death.
and nobody listening to you, nobody believing anything you're saying,
No.
and everybody telling you, no, he's an asshole. No, it was this, it was that. And now, 32 years later, in December, we're 4.5 years into a Mefloquine mass tort litigation.
Yeah.
We've had a motion 502 passed in Alberta. Countries
There's
around.
TV shows putting it on now.
Oh, no way.
Oh gosh, NCIS I heard about that right away. But did you see NCIS? They had a guy on a malaria drug off the rails, just like wanting to be shot by cops.
Yeah.
That was the story.
Yeah.
I could give you how many guys' names that could be in there.
A million stories.
That could be that exact story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging that we are winning. Slowly, but we are.
Yep. We are losing people. Right?
I never thought we'd get this far. Yeah, we are, and we've lost far too many.
Yeah. And we'll lose more.
We will.
But the point is, like you said, that we're getting to the point where maybe we're saving more than we're losing.
I think
so. And that's very thank fuck.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just what being aware is about. So spreading awareness saves lives. Period.
Yep.
And again, if you think your voice doesn't make a difference, we're sitting here because I didn't shut up, and that was just me. So anybody can do that. Anybody just got to keep talking. Got to stand up for the right side, right?
Yep.
Stay focused on a cause and just try to save some lives. That's what we're doing.
Yep. Completely.
Yeah.
Not what work or what purpose going out there can give somebody such satisfaction when you know that you're making a light, you're changing people's lives, you're saving people's lives, right?
Because even back in those dark days, there was still someone who would hear me, and when I think I can't do this anymore, then someone would call and say, oh my God, I seen this, and that's me. And it would be one person, and very rarely in between, but it would be enough to
keep you going.
Keep me going.
Right?
Yeah.
It was always enough.
It was always
to keep
enough.
You going.
Exactly. Right? And when even this year, I thought I was burnt out, and I thought I can't do another rally. And Dave and them say, Marj, you're going to be so mad if you don't. You're going to, and we went into this together. We'll do it together till the end. And that's exactly, sometimes everybody needs somebody to pick them up and dust them off and point them in the right direction, right? And so that's what I count on too, because I'm not, it's hard. It's been a long time, but it's nice to see we're winning.
Yeah. I look at it. You've been at it for 32 years.
Just about 32 years, yeah.
I've been in the fight for 4.5. I've been up and down. I've wanted it over. I've wanted it over. I can't imagine 32 years. And for me to go into it, per se, was, as I kind of understood more, I got involved more or whatever. Because at the start of everything, I was saying bullshit. Yeah. Right?
She's crazy.
It's a lie.
That's what
the medication didn't do it. No. Fucking take responsibility.
Man up. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And And now to realize, oh my God, like now I don't, that's the only thing I see is
Yeah.
all the drug. The
Yeah.
drug has done
Everything.
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 Yep. And made people capable of shit that really they were never capable of in the first place.
And even if they were, they probably wouldn't have done it.
Yep.
It took away the inhibition, took away the empathy, added the aggression till you became a person you weren't.
Yep.
So
Yep.
again, the blame it all lands on that drug and on the doorstep of D&D and Hoffman and LaRoche and no one else.
Yep. And now we're going to fucking change all that, aren't
Yes,
we?
we are.
Because that's going to change.
Yeah, we are.
32 years somebody's been fighting at this, and it's time we give her the big win.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
And
I'd be so happy for everyone. I would.
Like, I can't imagine what I couldn't imagine what your next day would look like after something like that, right?
I didn't want to look at the next days.
Like,
I had my dark times, believe you and me, and that's why I understand when people get there, how easy it is to get there. But I also know that tomorrow's another day.
Yep.
Even an hour is another. Everything can
Is
change.
a chance. Yep.
Yeah.
Is
And life is precious, and we have a right to it.
Yep.
And we have a right to live it and be happy. And it is not right to use people for guinea pigs or to make your money off the backs of others suffering. It's just not right. And I'm not going to quit until we win something for you guys, for everyone, for me and all the other families affected.
Yep.
My family, your family, all of them.
Yep.
And we'll get there too, because we're not going to quit till we do.
Yeah.
I didn't come this far to quit.
I jumped on a winning team.
Yeah, we did.
You were already at it, so I came in for the big win.
Good job.
Right?
We need the big push now.
Yeah. Yep. No,
Yeah.
I think we're in the push right now.
I agree.
Because I also think that people are more receptive to the possibility that a drug could cause.
It used to take an hour to explain Mefloquine. You can say Mefloquine, and most people know what that word is now today.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it took me forever to explain what it was and what it did and what the Somali affair was. And so when we got quiet in those years, a lot of people forgot what that Somali affair was about. What happened in Somalia, period. Nobody, well, they were too young to remember.
Yep.
But we've revived that now, and people remember now again, as it should be, because that cannot get buried. That was the whole hope of D&D and Hoffman, that they would bury me and bury the story. But it keeps reviving itself.
But you can't bury something that dark.
No.
Right?
No, you're right. That's true.
Yep. It's going to come out in the light.
Yeah. I appreciate you doing these podcasts. I appreciate that. I'm mine or the next people you interview, we're all going to reach someone. And that if it's one, then I've said it all along. We're going to find you guys one at a time if we have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's been working for you so far.
Yeah.
Right?
Hopefully. Yeah.
Because you have an army now.
I do have an army now.
Right?
I never thought I'd even belong to that army again, but I do.
And
they call me sister.
And for us airborne guys, it fucking was not your fault whatsoever.
No.
It was not Clayton's fault. It was from October 92 to now. The drug has been responsible for so much.
Yep.
For shit that we don't even realize. There's more stories out there.
Yeah.
That'll break people's hearts.
They'll gut you, some of those stories. Yep. They will gut you. I've have to go away and just recoup my own self after absorbing some of the stories that we've heard.
And that is the truth.
It
to
is.
Say, because you're absorbed. So when you have empathy, then you're absorbing what's going on, and it can take stuff out of you.
Oh, it does.
Then, right?
It does. I don't know. I don't know how I've been able. I honestly don't know.
That's why I don't know how you. Maybe the fact that you've been doing it.
Maybe because I'm not Mefloquine either. I mean, my horror is with the drug, definitely, but I didn't get poisoned. So for that reason, I'm stronger in the fight, But that's the only reason I'm stronger.
But I think also you've been at it for 32 years. So you've heard it from the first story, which was your own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To like
Yesterday's.
story after story, like one year after another, that you've heard these stories for 32 years, right?
Yeah.
And some of us have heard it for the last 5, right? But the amount of stories and the amount of stuff that you've taken on, and then still been able to push yourself out the door
Wow.
to go and still push and talk, right?
I don't know how I do it. I mean, it is
Because it
these are
was-
not stories that normal people hear.
Yeah.
They're deep, they're dark, they'll
Yeah.
gut you. I
Yeah.
lay awake at night thinking about them,
Yeah.
and hurting for their families, and yeah, it's not easy, but if I don't keep going, I kept telling myself there'll be more like that. But if I keep going, then maybe we'll stop this somewhere along the line. And to me, that's super, super important to,
Yep. Right.
to not let Mefloquine win in the end for any of us.
Yep.
We win.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for everything. And your purpose here is to bring this to light. Your purpose is going to be to bring it out, right?
Mhm.
Your purpose is going to give us answers, right?
I hope
And
so.
and you wouldn't have made it this far. You wouldn't have made it for 32 years of hearing these stories and continuing to go on, Marge, if that wasn't what was meant to be.
Yeah, it's what was meant to be. And if you believe in God or not, maybe he chose this stubborn little tick to just stick in it until the end. I don't know. But if people still don't feel good about Clayton, at least maybe just be glad he married someone who was so stubborn she wouldn't
Yep.
shut up. So,
Yep.
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 I have a huge life. I have a great life, but until this is done, I'm never going to be healed.
Yep. And I think in actual fact, what is happening now is a healing portion to what happened to all the airborne soldiers in Somalia, right?
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have the healing now if we didn't have the fight, right? So as many people could have blamed you and could blame you and say shit,
Yeah.
that really none of it was was all garbage.
Yeah.
Now it's almost reversed, and it's and more people are going to be like, you know what? Thank God Marge was out there. Thank God Marge continued to fight.
Yeah. And
Because
I'm so
now-
grateful when people come from that side to this side and say, I'm sorry. I dissed you and I didn't believe you. And you know what? Apologies are big, and it takes a big person to say they're sorry, but I'm quick to remind them that you were also wounded. You are
Yep.
damaged by this. And I don't hold anything against anybody anymore.
Yeah.
No. I don't.
Yep.
That takes too much energy to hate people. It takes
Yeah, it
less
takes
to love them. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we all need to
That's what we need more than anything.
more of than
right?
anything. Yeah.
Yep.
And being attached to an army, they're your brothers and sisters. So
Yep.
I fix my family, and I'm
Yep.
going to continue to fix my family.
Well, even you can say for everybody that's in the fight, they're in the fight because they're in the fight, but they're also fighting to fix themselves or to
Yes.
heal and to
Yes.
help and to get better.
And every one
And-
of them in turn, like I and you, or me and you have proper English, like
Yep.
us, we heal because we heal others, and it helps us to move on and to keep doing it.
Yep.
So,
I
yeah.
agree. And together, as one big army, we'll crest the mountain.
Yes, we will.
And by the
take the
time
hill.
we're finished, it'll look like a molehill.
Exactly. It'll be stomped flat. Yep.
Yep, there'll be nothing.
No, I agree. And I
we'll
can't
have
wait for
all-
that day.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're most welcome.
Thank you for being the queen. Right.
Thank
And
you.
for saving lives, right?
That to me is what I'm most proud of.
Yep.
That I have saved some lives, and I know that.
You have,
And so that's
right?
what keeps me going.
You can say
People have told me.
the reason I'm still alive today is because of the people that you've touched, and it reached me, and then I'm trying to fix myself.
Oh, hallelujah.
Right. So it all comes right. The roads all started somewhere, and the road started on the path that you were on. So,
and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I'm glad I'm not alone. But the fact that I'm not just means so many people suffered.
Yep.
Which is sad.
Yep.
I'm glad I'm not alone because we need to be loud to save this. But I should have stayed alone. It should have never been, anything that progressed from Somalia, but it did.
But it did. For a reason,
mm-hmm.
Obviously. Because Health Canada didn't stop it, right?
No, but we're gonna.
Yeah. So, Marj, I can't tell you how much all this means to me, what you've done. Okay.
I appreciate that from
no
the
matter
bottom
what.
of my heart.
Like the whole fight came from you, right? That's right. And if it wasn't for you, none of us would be here, right? Dave wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. Sean wouldn't be here.
Thank you for that.
Right.
And I'm glad you're all here. I'm so glad you're all here.
And my life is a better place because of you being out there and doing what you're doing, right?
Thank you.
To know that the other people are getting help the same way you helped me, the same way you opened my eyes, right? That you opened other eyes, right? It all started somewhere, and it all started with you, Marj. And I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate that very much.